Pretoria High Court this morning with the hope that the state's case will continue. The matter has been on ice for months now to allow the lawyer for one of the accused, Moses Sibiya, time to familiarize himself with the case after his lawyer died last year. Sibiya is one of 5 men accused of the football star's 2014 murder in what the state believes was a hit. Modise has more.
Advocate Charles Mnisi is no stranger to the Senzo Meyiwa trial, as he was appointed to represent Mtobi Simncube in 2023 after now disbarred Advocate Malesela Tefo withdrew. But when Thulani Mngomezulu died last year and Moses Sibiya agreed to Mnisi representing him too, he wanted the indulgence similar to one an absolutely new lawyer would require. And this is something Judge Ratamo Kgwatleng allowed, even asking Mnisi how much time he would need. Earlier this month, Mnisi told the court that he'd certainly be ready to proceed this morning. If that's the case, Mnisi will proceed with his second cross-examination of Investigating Officer Bongani Kinenda, this time on behalf of Moses Sibiya. Modise, Eyewitness News.
The wife of controversial Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotoso is under investigation for being in South Africa illegally. Yesterday, officials facilitated her husband's departure from the country after failing to successfully prosecute him for violating South Africa's immigration laws. The pastor, who was recently acquitted of rape and human trafficking charges, has been banned from re-entering South Africa for 5 years, starting at the time his SAA flight jetted off to Lagos from OR Tambo International Airport yesterday. Mongezi Koko was there.
That's the sound of Timothy Omotoso leaving South Africa alone. His wife, Thabo Omotoso, remains behind, surrounded by family members and a few loyal supporters. But her presence in the country is now under the microscope. Home Affairs officials say early findings suggest she may be in possession of fraudulent documentation, which, if found to be true, could render her stay in South Africa illegal. She's been advised to voluntarily return to Nigeria to avoid facing legal consequences. Head of Immigration Enforcement, Stephen Van Neil.
We're still looking into her, and we are obviously going to look into that and see whether we can confirm whether her status is illegal, but early indications is that she's not legal in the country.
Meanwhile, the National Prosecuting Authority is yet to announce its next move as it considers an appeal against Omotoso's acquittal in his high-profile sexual offences trial. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
The ANC says it's upbeat about the upcoming meeting between President Cyril Ramaphosa and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump as South Africa prepares to walk a tight diplomatic rope this week. Ramaphosa is en route to meet Trump at the White House in a high-stake mission on Wednesday. The visit comes after 49 Afrikaners went to the U.S. last week under false claims of being persecuted in their home country. The small group was granted refugee status by Washington. Nogukayam Dambo has more.
President Cyril Ramaphosa's visit to Washington is expected to see South Africa and U.S. trade relations and domestic race policies take center stage this week. But some analysts have warned that Ramaphosa's 3-day visit is unlikely to be an easy feat, with fears it could turn hostile or confrontational. South African diplomats have grown increasingly frustrated over false claims by Trump's administration that Afrikaner farmers are being targeted. There are no crime statistics or accounts that support the claims of genocide in South Africa, and global critics have also called bluff on the claims by the US. ANC Chief Whip in Parliament, Mdumiseni Ntuli.
Some of the positions adopted by President Donald Trump are really not informed by the objective reality of our situation in this country.
Ramaphosa will be joined by 4 ministers on the make or break mission. Nogukanya Mdambo, Eyewitness News.
Gold is trading at $3,216.71 an ounce. The rand is at 18.04 to the dollar, 23.99 to the pound, and 20.18 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.18 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got heavy delays on the N1 South between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive. That's due to an accident between these 2 points. There's also queuing traffic along the N3 North between Marlborough Drive and the Baklu interchange. Peak time delays there. While traveling on the N1 South in the Midrand area, please be on the lookout for roadworks taking place just as you approach Olifantsfontein Road as you come out of Samrand Road.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 23 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. JMPD officers say they are attending to a truck that was allegedly looted near the Dipkloof hostel.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
What are the matters that matter to you?
702 listens.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Seven minutes after 9 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. You're on 702. Clement is not here. My name is Thabo Shole-Mashao. As you heard a little bit earlier on, he's on his way to Washington to cover that historic interaction that will have definite impact on our economy as South Africa. Between President Trump and our President Cyril Ramaphosa. We hope that things go well. I suppose whichever side of the fence you fall on as far as politics, local politics is concerned, you will appreciate that it's now truly about South Africa. I have 10,000 things to say, negative things to say about our president, but this time it's about us. It's truly about the country where we need to stand united and abandon all differences. At least according to me, you could see it differently. But in my view, I think we hope that we are not going to see the Zelensky version of this interaction at the White House, and we really hope that President Ramaphosa will be able to put sense on the table and persuade the head of state in America to see things objectively, at least, not necessarily to side with us, but to use material facts to come to some serious determinations, diplomatically and otherwise, because that's all that we want to see. We are not saying take our side as South Africa, but we are saying look at things objectively, look at the facts, use a bit of empiricism as you come to your own conclusions, and take it in that way. I would want to believe that, of course, we've made fun of Americans, of Afrikaners who have taken the offer of America to come as refugees and whatever else, and we've given them names, and it's all good, and I can't disown it. I was also on that bus, but I think there's more here at play in this meeting, and something has to give. It's a chance that we can't miss, because if we just become little kids and we become grumpy and we take our ball and go home because people are not playing nice with us, the impacts will be severe and dire, and they'll be felt by all across the board. But that's my take. You could have a different take altogether. The show starts now, and as it starts, I immediately open the lines because between 9 and 10, I'm very much keen to hear what you have to say. There would be 1,000 things that we are not talking about on radio, in the media generally, that you know about and that you feel passionate about. I urge you, I can't overly emphasize, I urge you to bring them to the fore. It could be in your neighborhood. Please bring them to the fore. I want to know about those. It doesn't have to be issues that are only making national the national agenda item. It could be anything under the sun that you feel strongly about. It could be about perhaps children who are not looked after in one area in South Africa. It could be about sports that's being neglected. It could be, you could have a great idea that may change someone's life. So the open line is genuinely for that. So as much as I would kick off with my topic, often inspired by not just my experiences, but by headlines and what we read, what we come across in mainstream media, you could have something genuine that we need to touch on and that we've been ignoring. So please bring it to the fore. Don't even doubt yourself. Don't think that your contribution is of lesser quality because it's not in the Sunday newspapers. Please bring it to the fore and call us on 011-883-0702, 011-883-0702, or leave a very short, punchy voice note on 072 702-1702. And to that very same number, you can also text us and send us your thoughts on the open line. I thought I would want to kick off first with the story that was just dominant last week, and that was about Cwecwe Mantashe's son, and he was supposed to occupy the position of chair in one of the SETAs, and of course we saw that the EFF did not want any of that, and they were leading the pact and saying, how do you allow that to happen? Because Mr. Mantashe is not only a very prominent, powerful minister, but he was acting president at some point. I think all of us will agree that he's an influential politician. So when his son is set to occupy another prominent position elsewhere, it would raise the eyebrows, so to speak. But he fought back yesterday, if you were reading the Sunday papers, and I think it was in the Sunday World where I read that he was saying that I'm qualified for the position. Am I just being sidelined, victimized because I'm the son of a minister? Why is it that my proximity to power disadvantages me from exploiting opportunities that are otherwise open to everyone? Am I not a South African? That was his argument, right? That's not mine. That's his argument. He's saying, yeah, I'm a son of a politician, but I'm qualified, I'm competent, I must do some work. So I should just sit at home. So what I'm calling for is a bit of introspection, and I'm not taking either of the side. I'm asking for your wisdom and your astute observation on this issue. Where do we draw the line as far as conflict of interest is concerned? Of course, there is a very clear case, and I'm not talking about that. For instance, if the CEO of some prominent company was to appoint their son to become general manager of that very same company, that's cut and dry. It's very clear. I'm not talking about that. As far as politicians are concerned, public figures are concerned, where do we draw the line? Do we say as a nation that if you are related or closely linked to a politician who happens to be in government, who may sway power, you should stay away from anything that has to do with government or that particular department? How do we see it? I mean, he's complaining about a court of public opinion having pronounced on his guilt before he could even put anything on the table. And that's not new, by the way. You know that Deputy President Paul Mashatile has also said that. He's come out publicly and said, where should my children work? They are South Africans. Every time they try to touch this business, if they get this tender, if they get this business, people start wagging their tongues. Where should they work? I'm not feeling sorry for politicians at all. I am not. And let me tell you why. Because there are pros and cons with being in that circle of power. The pros are that you get to network with people at influential levels who come to your house at times and have dinner with your dad or your mom. You get invited to their kids' birthday parties. You get the proximity that ordinary Thabo doesn't get. So that's a plus, right? It comes with that. And we don't punish you for that. Equally so, you must be able to absorb the cons, the negatives that come with that. That if you get a job in that space, we will attribute it to your proximity to power. I don't know if that makes sense. So, I mean, you can give me your examples where you work. It also, by the way, it's prominent in the private sector. We just don't talk about it, and it's not covered sufficiently in the news. Where you find that the CEO of a certain bank, and I'm not mentioning any because this is just an example, has their children, cousins, and relatives working in that same bank and position them appropriately in the hierarchy of the bank or any other company. And we don't touch on that. But where do we draw the line? My question is, where do we draw the line? When do we say this is wrong, this is right? Except for when it's clear-cut, right? That's one issue on the open line that I'd like us to ventilate on. And then between 10 and 10:30, the South African National Defence Force members return home. Some have been hit by delays. We'll speak to Advocate Pikkie Greeff about that. He is with SA National Defence Union, where he is secretary. And the delays are a bit tedious. If you were listening sometime last week or a couple of days ago, I was standing in for John and I spoke to Siphiwe Dlamini, who is the spokesperson, head of communications at the SANDF. And I asked him, should heads roll about all this mess? And he laughed. He just laughed. Subsequently, the great legendary Sipho Mabuza called and said, Thabo, but when you are in that kind of environment, people will die. Does it mean someone must always be fired for soldiers dying, for soldiers having these situations? And I was saying, firstly, that's not our war. That's not our battle to fight. But secondly, it's not really about that. It is about blatant incompetency that has been displayed by SANDF. We'll chat about that between 10 and 10:30. 10:30 to 11 o'clock, Timothy Omotoso. Goodness me. What is to be said that hasn't been said about that troublesome Timothy Omotoso? But now he's gone back home. He's been deported. 5-year ban on him. He can't let his foot touch the soil of South Africa for 5 years. And we'll speak to Bafana Khumalo, Executive Director at Sonke Gender Justice. Because there are a litany of issues against Timothy Omotoso. It's not just a deportation. We also know that we will try to speak to Mthunzi Mhaga, who, if he's not listening, that is about the appeal that they have placed on the table. Family matters between 11 and 12. The impact of financial stress on the family. Hard-hitting one. I mean, if you can't afford a couple of things, the kids are told to stay at home because you didn't pay school fees and things are hard. Other children are wearing certain brands, they're getting bicycles, and yours cannot. Just putting food on the table. Those are the issues that we'll touch on with Dr. Tumi Mashego, who's a clinical psychologist, just after 11 o'clock. For now, I would like to say very little so that we don't fight. I know you and I love fighting. Today, I don't want to fight with anyone. It's your show, your views. Let's open the line and hear from you on 011-883-0702. 18 minutes after 9, the entire team is here. Zintle, Sinazo, Abel, and of course you. Let's kick off the show properly, Abel.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Tulani, you are calling us from Centurion. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Thabo. I was saying to producers, if the process was to be open, transparent, and fair, there wouldn't be any issue really for the appointment of Cwecwe's son to any of these board positions or wherever else where he wants to be appointed. And I said, to the extent that some of these things are legislated and they are barred from being appointed either because of the NFMA saying you can't do business with government if you are an employee of government. To the extent that those are regulated, it is well and clear, and there is no dispute about that.
Yes.
But with regard to this particular one, the only issue I have is that you have, and I don't know, maybe I'm the only one. Have you ever heard of a process where that there are people that are going for interviews for these board positions? I've never heard of such. I have seen advertisements where they are advertising that we're looking for board members for this state entity, for that agency, and so on. But there are no interviews. Interviews are never held. I mean, if you open this process, let everyone who's competent and qualified apply. Have them on an equal footing, interview them, and let the best candidate then get the job. If it were that clear and open and fair, then I wouldn't have a problem with it. The problem is, and I know this for a fact, because I'm close to a lot of some of these politicians, albeit I'm just not, maybe I'm not their friends, but I know them. When you have to be, when you apply, when you actually have to be appointed in any board, it basically will handpick you. They'll tell you, I'm going to take you to that entity, I'm going to take you to that entity. And if you're not their friends, you can apply all you want.
Yes. Yeah.
You can apply all you want.
Thulani, I was just going to
have,
add, before you say goodbye,
Yes.
I'll give you a chance to retort, please.
Yes.
I just wanted to add one thing, and I want you to comment on it. The process of transparency, how far do we go as far as that is concerned? Do we make all these things transparent and public and encourage participation in full view of everyone? Because before even a position or becomes vacant, someone right at the top already knows, and they submit the nominations and they tip off their family members. When you and I wake up, it's already too late, or it was in the newspaper in a very hidden corner somewhere, as you've rightly pointed to, and we don't even stand a chance. The transparency, to what extent should it be, Thulani?
I don't have a problem, Thabo, with them tipping their friends before the process even starts. But hey, look, there is an opening at the SETA for board members. Do have a look out on it. We will be advertising it shortly, and put your application in. I don't have a problem with them tipping them off to that only insofar as that is concerned. I have a problem with them then advertising this thing just as a matter of tick box.
Due process,
we are advertising it, but after that, there is no one, Thabo, no one that has ever gone for an interview for these things. I have a friend of mine who was a board member at Pick It Up, for example. He just told me, no, I was called and I was told to submit a CV, and then I got an appointment.
Thulani, let's leave it at that and give others a chance, okay? But I'm hoping that someone who's attended this one of these interviews will call in and share their experience. 011-883-0702. Snega in Kagiso. Morning, Snega.
How's it?
Hey, Shapuzet.
Thabo, I'm going to be a pastor at some point.
Good luck to your church, Snega.
Yeah, so when I'm a pastor, I would have to compromise some of the things. I can't call you and say, Thabo, bakaebana. No, I mean, I'm also a human being. I have to compromise some of the things. Equally with the politicians. When you choose to be a politician, you would know some of your family members would have to stay away from some of these things. And if you're not talking about South Africa, maybe I would be different. But because we know our politicians, how corrupt they are, immediately when you get somebody from Mashapile or Ramaphosa or Nomvola's family being a board member somewhere, you would have to say, they really qualify to be there. So they would really have to stay away from these things. If it was not in South Africa, yes, maybe we would understand. But here at home, they must stay away from these positions.
Speaking of qualifications, Snega, I don't know if you saw the Sunday World yesterday. He was arguing that he's got not just appropriate qualifications. He's overly qualified. He's got an MBA from Gibbs, if I remember. Sadly, I don't have the Sunday World in front of me, but his list of academic qualifications were well ventilated in the paper yesterday. And he was saying people make him to be this dumb person, those are his words, who knows nothing about nothing, but he's sufficiently Are qualifications sufficient for you to warrant that appointment?
No, I am saying, Thabo, we understand that part, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also still saying, if it was not in South Africa, it would be a different case. But here,
so where must they work, Snega? If they come back to you and they say, Snega, but where must we work? We are South Africans. Now, the accident of birth must preclude us from participating economically in our country. How would you respond to that?
Thabo, I'm going to give you the same answer. Their parents have already tainted this whole thing. So they are unfortunately disqualified from participating, because once they participate, they say, we don't think you qualify.
In the private sector, can they at least play in the private sector according to you?
They must go there. Yeah, they must go there.
You don't think their parents have got influence in the private sector?
Well, maybe we'd compromise there. But within the government ones, we don't want to negotiate. We must stay away.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Snega. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your call, Snega from Kagiso. 011-883-0702. Lubabalo calling us from Guguletu. Lubabalo, hi.
Hi, how's it, Thabo? How are you, man?
I'm free. How's it going, Lubabalo? You good?
I'm good. Listen, man, I'm sorry, man. I have to even mention this. but I would like to highlight a huge problem that we are dealing with as on a daily basis as South Africans. Last week there was a video of a Zimbabwean lady and her children that was denied access to healthcare by the Tutula movement, which I'm totally against of. No one should be denied access to healthcare. But then this triggered me because of personally last year my cousin was pregnant and was due for an ultrasound scan at Mowbray Maternity, and we were told twice that they were fully booked. So we wanted to find out why are they always fully booked, and we went there and we demanded my cousin to be served, and the facility manager told us.
I lost you for a second, Lubabalo.
By foreign nationals queuing up the system. So I'm saying that the facilities manager of the hospital,
yes,
informed us that they were overwhelmed and inundated by foreign nationals, especially Malawians and Zimbabweans, clogging up the system for an ultrasound scan. So they have a lot of pregnant women who need that care, and now we as South Africans have to wait in the queue. And I'm not saying that we should deny them healthcare, but it seems like they are overwhelming our healthcare system. And we're not saying that they must be turned away. But guys, I think that these guys they have a culture shock when they come here that South Africans have free healthcare, free schooling, and then they overwhelm our systems. And because of they've got this ideology that we are having things better or we're having a soft life, and which we are not. It's a big problem, Thabo.
And that speaks to the authorities, doesn't it, Lubabalo? Because we must have, it starts right at the border, right? Having porous borders doesn't help us. People monitoring the borders, making sure that not every single person comes through. That's where it starts. It starts with regulations, because if it gets to the hospitals, it's a little bit too late, right? And exactly. I could also feel the pain of the nurses, healthcare workers, particularly doctors who have to deal with the Hippocratic oath, and thinking that this person, and they have to treat everybody equally. So at that point, I think at that point, it's already late. We need to trace the problem back to its genesis, because once they're at the hospital gate, we have a serious responsibility. And I know people are going to fight with me for this. I'm not calling for a fight. We have a serious responsibility of making sure that we save every possible life, despite nationality or legality of the individuals in the country.
That's correct, So I have to fully agree with you. But not only that, what I've noticed is this. Now, even with clothing items, at one point we went to Ackermans and Mr. Price, and the way that they bulk buy these clothes, we asked them, why are you guys buying this too much for the sale? And they said, no, we have to buy so we can send back home. So they want to stockpile so they can send back home. So it's a lot of issues we need to deal with, and we need to look at our borders very, very carefully.
We do. There's a lot that needs to be done. I suppose with that issue, it starts right at the border. And I think that's where we need to place pressure on. This is not to devalue or dilute other valid discussions around this issue of many South Africans who feel otherwise. And I know we've had serious fights about this on this show about the foreign nationals. But at that point, I think, Lubabalo, the pressure needs to go to the government more than anything else. And I feel it. I really feel it, because, if you are in another country, you know your place. You really know your place. You know where you are in the hierarchy of things. But listen, Lubabalo, thanks for bringing something that was not on the table. I appreciate it. And those are very interesting topics. Let's keep debating, discussing. It's exactly 9:30. Sfiso Zulu will give us the very latest on Eyewitness News headlines. Good morning, Sfiso. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Thabo. Good morning. The South African Post Office is set to get a multi-million rand lifeline after Labour Minister Makhosazana Meth signed a breakthrough agreement between the ailing state entity and the Unemployment Insurance Fund. The aid, which will halt retrenchments for now, will come in the form of a 381 million rand injection over 6 months. The move is aimed at preserving creating nearly 6,000 jobs and supporting the revitalization of one of the country's most critical SOEs. The Senzo Meyiwa trial is back in the Pretoria High Court this morning with the hope that the state's case will continue. The matter has been on ice for months now to allow the lawyer for one of the accused, Moses Biya, time to familiarize himself with the case after his lawyer died last year. And the trial of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro on charges of planning a coup will start today. The nation's Supreme Court will hear from key witnesses, with the far-right politician potentially facing decades in prison. More than 80 people, including high-ranking military officers, former government ministers and police and intelligence officials, are to testify in a preliminary trial phase expected to last for at least 2 weeks. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
Time. When you're a kid, it moves slower than a sloth trying to get through airport security. There is just so much of it. Skip forward a few years to your 20s. Time is still your friend. It says have some balance. Go party and have fun. Then your 30s hit. And time suddenly steps on the accelerator like it's trying to catch a traffic light before it goes red. 40s. Now time is moving faster than your 10-year-old on a sugar high. 50. You're desperately trying to save as much as you can, but time is moving so fast. And all you can think is, where did all the time go? That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time for some much-deserved you time. Now, isn't that a compelling enough reason to invest? Ellen Gray. Long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Corporates That Care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring MTN. The head of sustainability and shared value, Marina Madale, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
Doll, you know you can tell us anything, hey? You realize we can see all these men bringing you gifts at all hours, right?
Sorry?
Sweetie, we know about your weakness for men in uniform.
Excuse me? Those men in uniform work for one cart, and they understand my needs. Michelle, they shop the entire mall for me, like Macro, Lin, Toy Kingdom, and more. Maybe you should download One Cart and get your needs delivered in 60 minutes.
Every thriving business starts the same way with someone who dares to dream. If that's you, 702 and Standard Bank's MyMobiz business account want to back your next bold move. Every week we'll spotlight 4 of Gauteng's boldest entrepreneurs and give them a chance to win 25,000 Rand to boost their business. And if you already bank smart with a Standard Bank business account, that becomes 50,000 Rand. To enter, hit primemediaplus.com and tell us your growth aspiration and how a cash injection could unlock your next level of success. This week, tune in to 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. to hear if your business is in the running. It's time to rise and thrive with Standard Bank's MyMobiz business account. TCs and more at primemediaplus.com.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Definitely 26 minutes to 9 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. And this is Thabo in for Clement. We're together till 12. It's an open line, so whatever is on your mind goes at this particular point. Your voice notes on 072-702-1702. Earlier on, we had a chat about the issue of conflict of interest. I wanted to find out from you, what do you make of it, especially in the court of public opinion? When people related or have close proximity to those individuals in power, particularly politicians, whenever they land a tender, whenever they are appointed in one position or the other, we complain and we say that's because they are related to the minister, to the deputy minister. We complain and say, yeah, that's the son of that top 5 member, top 7 member at the ANC. That's why they got this job to start off with. Where do we draw the line, though, especially when that person is qualified and they've gone through the right processes? Do we feel that, despite all of that, they unduly benefited because directly or otherwise their next of kin might have influenced this because of the power that they hold? It might be that their parents didn't even say anything to anyone, but the person who's in charge of appointing and overseeing that process thought to themselves, if I don't appoint the minister's son, I might just be ostracized somehow, or my contract is not going to be renewed, or I'm not going to, the work environment is just going to be horrible for me. So where do we draw the line? I wanted to find out from you. Another issue that we have not been ventilating thoroughly on, it's this issue of the lottery. And Mzwakhe, I'm going to come back to you in 1 second, just 1 second. Hold tight, don't go away. The Citizen reports today that the Minister, Pakstau, responsible for South Africa's lottery, has entered into negotiations with the company with close links to Ituba Holdings. And the Ituba Holdings is the current license holder of the lottery, as you would know, to give them a 12-month temporary license to run the lottery. There have been so many shenanigans in the process. Extremely embarrassing. And this contract is valued at billions and billions of rands. However, not sufficient attention is paid on this. The process started 2 years ago or so, and they had shortlisted individuals who were supposed, or companies, consortiums that were meant to be participating in the process to stand a chance of running and operating the lottery. The incumbent is Ituba. Not only did it enjoy its tenure of 7 years, it received an additional 2 years or so of extension over and above. And now a company very close to it is getting another year. So it will be just 10 years of Ituba enjoying this beautiful, lucrative contract that enjoys over 7.3 billion rand of sales in a year. How lucky can one be? I mean, and that's all normal to us. That's all normal to us, and everything is just hunky-dory. It's right in front of us. Not only that, the companies that have been shortlisted have been tainted with exactly what we're talking about, conflict of interest, and chances are it will be awarded to individuals who are precluded by the regulations that govern this particular appointment, because politically aligned individuals, as stipulated in the regulations, should not be awarded this. And if the Citizen newspaper is correct about the preferred bidder, the person has had close shaves with politics. And apparently they will be getting their preferred bidder. And that is okay with us. It will run smoothly, we'll forget about it. We're talking about billions of rands. Some companies and consortiums therein have been accused of being a player and a referee at the same time. We are all okay with that. But maybe we've shrugged our shoulders already and we've said, hey, that's who we are. Let it be. It doesn't matter. 011-883-0702. Mzwakhe, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours. Mzwakhe in Germiston?
Yes, how are you?
I'm free, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Tell me, Timos, where you coming from? There was this guy who was extremely good in soccer.
Yes.
We knew when you go to those Sunday games and whatever that this guy is very, very good.
Yeah.
But then they never got that opportunity to play in the Premier League, for instance, the Premier Division.
Yes.
Now you've got these guys because their fathers, whoever played soccer before for these teams, now it becomes easy for them to join those teams and play in the Premier League. So now, what do you say about that? Take that, compare with this one of, for instance, the minister and his son.
Yes.
You know, where we're coming from,
yeah,
we take everything with a pinch of salt as long as it involves politicians, because history taught us to say wherever a child of proximity is prevailing, there has to be some degree of nepotism. But then now we forget that at some point people do get posts on merit.
Yes.
And then if in my case that is the case, that the person, whoever that person is who got onto the board, got it on merit, to me it was fine, because like any other person, they qualify to contest and work and get posts and work like any other person.
Yeah. But that merit has to be qualified as well, right?
True.
The person has. Person has got. I'll give you a chance in a second, Mzwakhe. I won't be long. I'll just maybe 20 seconds. The person has got qualifications, appropriate qualifications, and they're competent and experienced. However, because of their proximity to power, because of how close they are to these things, they have an added advantage of knowing and being prepared before Mzwakhe is alerted. So even if Mzwakhe is equally competent or more competent, he stands very little chance, because Mzwakhe's father is not a minister. As a result, even if Mzwakhe is not appointed, there won't be any ramifications, alleged or otherwise. Mzwakhe, I'm quiet.
But you understand what I'm saying. I hear what
I
you're
do.
saying.
I do.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. But at some point, it might not necessarily be the case.
Yes.
That they were advantaged. So I'm saying to you and to the listeners, if people do get these particular positions on qualifications, on merit, and then they were never in any way whatsoever advantaged over Uthibos, for instance, then to me it's fine. Let them get the post. They are qualified to work. Let them work.
Yeah.
But then now we also focus on these politicians, on government. But then we also need to look, like I gave you clear examples.
Yes.
We've got ex-soccer players. Their children are there in the Premier League. Some they are not even good. They are playing there. They are not even good. You've got guys that we know. You go to Soweto, all those locations. The ground will be full on Sunday because there are this crop of players that they are not having connection to the Premier League.
Yeah. No, Mzwakhe, it's a very interesting point. I'm not going to mention names of those sons of those prominent individuals in the soccer space who are not good at soccer at all, but find themselves kicking the ball in the Premier League, and they never even kicked the ball at school. Interesting one. John, you're in Davidton. Morning to you, John.
Listen, Tibos, I just want to be blunt. Knowing how corrupt South African politicians are.
Yeah.
And even Gwende Matanshe himself has been fingered in the Zondo Commission. Are you aware of that?
Of course I'm aware. And he said that he threatened at some point that he will take it to court and get it overturned and reviewed, rather. I am quite aware. Yes, sir.
Yes. And South Africa, it's riddled with corruption. And he is fingered. And now we hear his son. Look, it's a no-no. It's no-go area there. We must understand that government posts are not private jobs or companies. So therefore, until the government is cleared of corruption, such appointments are questionable. We must just not even go there. To be honest, there is no qualification or whatever, because there are many qualified people. Last week, I was talking to one guy at the Echo Lane and said, I know we have got young architects, and in fact, I'm saying artisan. We have got architects who are qualified, staying in this township. And you get to the municipality, you get people who are just ordinary people, work as people as if they're architects.
Yeah.
Corruption is rife, not most.
Yeah.
Secondly, I want to say this, and nobody has ever mentioned this thing. I want you to escalate it. There's a place called Hammarskraal, and you had in the past that there were some choleras and whatever. I've got a family there. what we discovered is that in the graveyard, when they dig graves, they always get water before the depth of the grave. And during burial, they have to hire some machine to suck out water. And there are toilets there. There are no drainage. They dig pit toilets, and they make them as if they are flushing. And there are also boreholes. So the water table is contaminated by grave water. It's contaminated by toilet water. But the government are saying no government official is seeing what's happening. Why don't they get somebody to advise? To be honest, when I get there, we always carry water. You cannot even touch water. It's a problem. The government discovered this corner. They don't do nothing.
John,
corrupt. It's also under corruption.
John, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? I'm happy to take that up, but I'm going to ask you first. Please write directly to the mayor of the city of Tshwane. It has been said that she wants to sweep things clean. And before I cast aspersions on her and her competency, please just knock on a door, even on X. If you're on X or any platforms that she occupies, tell her that immediately. And if there's no response, come back to us and then we'll take it up. It sounds like something very serious. That's if they're not listening at all. Nasipi Moyo. Yeah. Sorry, John? Yeah. I'm pleading with you. Knock on a door first. Knock on a door first so that we give a benefit of the doubt. And if she's not, moving, and then we can then add a little bit of heat under her feet. But please knock on a door first, John. Really appreciate it. Are we taking a break, Abel? It's 13 minutes to 10.
Daydreaming about that next holiday? Stop dreaming. Flight Centre's Big Red Sale is back, bringing you the hottest deals. Save up to 50% off selected cruise and tour deals, 65% off stays, 55% off holiday packages, and save even more with our Bundle Plus Save offering. Hurry, sale ends 31 May. Visit flightcentre.co.za or your nearest Flight Centre store. T's and C's apply. Flight Centre, your center for travel.
Medical aid plans, they're normally like this.
So, you'll need to take this form and this. So don't forget this too. Okay, wait. Don't forget this one. Wait. Okay, done.
My back!
Sorry, sir. That's gonna have to come out of your savings.
At Bonitas, we make our plans simple, so they're easy to understand. We also offer a benefit booster and a range of other benefits that don't come off your savings. Visit bonitas.co.za when you need us. Bonitas, medical aid for South Africa. T's and C's apply.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
011-883-0702. Feel free to send the voice notes to 072-702-1702.
Good morning, Thabo, man. This is Flores from the Western Cape. Yeah, I feel a bit down the weather. I think I've got flu, but any event, Thabo, there's nothing we can do about this lottery thing. The only logical thing is that we should stop buying lotto tickets, and that's not going to happen in a million years. We all know that. So, yeah, what can we do? The fat cats just do as they please us, and we as the little mice need to go and hide and only come out when the cat is away. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
Hi. So, my take on the Ituba contracts and every other contract for that matter, 90% of the contracts out there that are illegally, handed out, the level of corruption will not end unless it ends from the top down. So it's an age-old struggle, you know, when you say, are we going to shrug our shoulders and just take it? I think we are all used to not, you know, getting the right politicians in place that can manage and ethically run government and root out corruption as far as possible. But this has got to happen from the top down. And unfortunately, as long as we vote for those who are currently in power, we will always have the same result. No questions asked.
Morning, Thabo. In relation to the lottery, I think it's time that the secrecy of who wins these huge amounts needs to be done away with. How do we, the general public, know that we are buying tickets in good faith? How do we know it's not being allocated to their cronies? It's very simple. Half an hour before the lottery is drawn, the ticket sales close, so you can determine which tickets are sold or whatever. So it can be done. So it's time that there is transparency. Personally, I think there is a lot of tomfoolery going around. It's bad enough that those people in charge of the lottery, both Gidani and Ituba people, were taking millions, diverting them from the special funds for the initiatives. Never mind what all they could get up to with what's being dispersed that's not transparent.
011-883-0702 011-883-0702. Yeah, and you're right. And again, because this lottery contract, you know, attracts the fattest of the cats regarding these processes. It's often those who've got serious appetite to spend in order for them to draw as much as possible from the lottery process. You would understand, just to participate, you need a minimum of 50 million rand that may not even come back to you because you may not even stand a chance at all. Was it 50,000 rands? I think it was, if not more, just to purchase the document. After purchasing the document, you needed to pay another amount for you to submit. I think it was 2.5 million rand, subject to correction. And after that, if you go to the next stage, you need to demonstrate that you have, I think, 1 billion, if not more, guarantee. And so on it goes. So that's why I suppose it's very difficult for us ordinary people to challenge all these decisions right at the top. 011-883-0702 has been holding the longest between the two. It's definitely Mampurani from Kensington. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning. I phoned in to contribute to this conversation. I want to share a story. But the first thing that I want to say as well is that, gone are the days that as South Africans we're just going to be sitting down watching things happen. This state of our country requires active citizenry. We need to be citizens that pride, that hold accountability, that inquires, that is inquisitive, and we should not get tired. And we must understand that is not going to happen without any threat. We are going to be threatened, but you have to actually be prepared to say that for me, for this country to rise up, I need to be inquisitive. I need to find out what is happening where and where. But having said that, let me share a story about what happened to me. I happen to also be one of the people that you can say somehow connected, influential or something like that. So my son was an upcoming promising soccer player. And he liked soccer, but he wanted to perform in one of the clubs. And he went to the trials. At the trials, he didn't really meet the requirement. And then he was turned down. And knowing how much he loved the soccer, I could see his passion. And then peer pressure as well will always tell you that you're so connected, but your child is not doing this. So I said to myself, okay, let me also go and use my influence.
Yeah.
And indeed, I spoke to the person, and the person said, no, fine, we will do that. And then I went to my son to tell him that, boy, you've won. You are going in there. And the boy looked at me and he said, Mom, I failed the trial. I can't do that. I have to go there on my own merit. I did not. And I looked at this boy and I said, why? Is it that you never actually did this? You don't believe in what you're doing. I was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed, but I was also proud. Proud that my son reminded me of who I am. Embarrassed that I actually burned down my own ethical conviction to promote my child. But then I was like, no, I'm really happy that my child could remind me of who I am, that we never, ever, family members, it doesn't matter, they cannot participate in areas where you have influence because you don't have a choice.
Allow me to jump in quickly because we have to go. But all I'm saying is that, I mean, can you imagine if you're a minister and you had a cousin or a relative who was not getting a job and they were qualified? You would push it accordingly because that incumbency of subjectivity would have influenced you otherwise. Tembi, you have a minute and a half. I'm quiet and listening to you. Tembin Binoni.
Hi, Thabo.
Morning.
Morning,
Tembi.
Look, I think it's very important for us to hold the government accountable based on facts, right? I don't want to just highlight Madam Madasha's son's qualifications. He holds a BSc in agricultural economics from Fordham University, a Master's of Science in Agricultural Economics and Management from China Agricultural University, and an MBA from the Gordon Institute. This person is more than qualified. It's just unfortunate that he's born from a prominent figure. And unfortunately, this would mean that he cannot work in South Africa. And he has every right to work in South Africa as a South African citizen. So now we're vilifying him because his father is a minister, but he holds this qualification. It would have made sense if he did not have these qualifications. Then we would say, no, but this is not fair play. But for me, it's unfair.
Yeah, Tembi, very quickly. Someone will say there are other people with similar, if not better, qualifications. Why are they not given the same chance?
Did they apply? If they did,
but you see, that's just that. Chances are they didn't because they didn't have a head start or a heads up about this. But because your dad is there, you would have proximity to these important positions that are about to become vacant. Does that count for anything, Tembi?
I mean, however, we are not certain that the father is involved in all of this.
Yeah.
And he also did say in his interview that I did not go to my father for permission.
Yeah.
I did my own work to find the work.
Tembe in Binoni, really appreciated. 2 minutes to 10 o'clock on 702.
Every time we are on the radio, we are not just talking. We're turning words into actions.
Actions that change communities.
Actions that make a difference. And every time you tune into 702,
you're not just listening to the radio, you're in conversation with us.
And your voice matters. You're on a journey with us.
And every step we take counts. It's these steps that not only help us grow as individuals, but also bring us together as a society.
Through the good times and the bad.
Every step gets us closer to the South Africa we want to be.
So keep walking with 702.
And let's make this a journey to remember. 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Get more for your car. We Buy Cars will come to you and buy your ride wherever you are. Simply complete the form on webuycars.co.za for an offer. Your car could be worth more than you think. Looking for your next ride? Shop pre-loved vehicles on webuycars.co.za or any branch nationwide. Whatever you're buying or selling, visit We Buy Cars today.
For all your home improvement needs, Leroy Merlin is the perfect destination to bring your inspiration to life. Get a 4.2 kilowatt Tatai 3-panel gas heater that was 1,299, now for only 1,149. And a KDAC 9 kilogram empty gas cylinder that was 979, now for an amazing 869. Explore all our ranges at your nearest Leroy Merlin or shop online until 27 May. Leroy Merlin, make your home the best place to live. T's and C's apply.
Dear Journal, adulting, day 3,700 and whatever. Just bought a bunch of supplements I can't pronounce to try and fix my sleep schedule. What a game changer. So chuffed I spotted them when I was doom scrolling at 11:53 p.m.
Finally learning about mental health. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's convenient and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
It's exactly 10 o'clock, time for Eyewitness News.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Paramedics have arrived in Soweto where the body of one man has been discovered amid a service delivery protest. Dozens of hostile residents blocked the Dipkloof interchange with burning tires, rubble and debris, protesting over long-standing housing grievances. Police responded by firing rubber bullets to disperse the crowd. Mongezi Koko is there and joins us now live. Mongezi, take us through this morning's events.
Well, Sfiso, amid the chaos, a truck carrying pilchards was halted and ransacked. Eyewitnesses say the driver, desperate to escape, sped off, allegedly plowing into a man in the process. Now his lifeless body lies between an ambulance and a cluster of police vans. A stone's throw away from the scene, police have confirmed a second person has died in the mayhem. Now dozens more have reportedly been injured as unrest continues to spiral. Top brass from the Gauteng's SAPS have arrived at the scene with a briefing expected shortly. So as we speak, now police are cordoning off the scene with a Nyala joining the dozens of police officers on site. And above all of this, I see a drone. I'll continue to bring you updates as the story unfolds. Mungi Zikoko, Eyewitness News, reporting live in Dipkloof.
The NPA has filed an extradition request in the Namibian government or to the Namibian government for two suspects linked to the burglary at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm. The trial into the theft of foreign currency begins today at the Mole Regional Court in Limpopo. Siblings Froliana and David Joseph, along with their accomplice Emanuela David, are accused of breaking into the Limpopo farm in 2020 and making off with $580,000 in cash. Tabiso Goba reports.
During the bail application stage, it was confirmed the three accused are all South African citizens. However, the alleged burglary mastermind Emanuela David told the court that he has family connections in Namibia. The state believes two Namibian adult males assisted him in the laundering of the stolen loots. NPA Limpopo spokesperson Mashudu Malabinjangi.
Yeah, for now we're going to proceed with the trial with 3 people. We've already done the process of extradition to get other accused persons, but are not going to be joined with this trial at this stage.
The trial has been scheduled to run for 4 weeks. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, Limpopo.
The South African Post Office is set to get a multi-million rand lifeline after Labour Minister Makhosazana Meth signed a breakthrough agreement between the ailing state entity and the Unemployment Insurance Fund. The aid, which will halt retrenchments for now, will come in the form of 381 million rand injection over 6 months. The move is aimed at preserving nearly 6,000 jobs and supporting the revitalization of one of the country's most critical SOEs. Nogukayam Dambo has more.
The funds will be made available through the Temporary Employer-Employee Relief Scheme, which is for companies facing financial distress. This intervention is designed to provide immediate relief to 6,000 employees while enabling the Post Office to implement a sustainable turnaround strategy. Labour Minister Makhosazana Meth says the agreement is a bold and necessary step to protect workers and restore confidence in public institutions. The funding will be dispersed in monthly tranches with strict governance, auditing and compliance measures in place. The Post Office has been under business rescue for over 2 years, facing retrenchments, financial pressure and a shrinking network during this time. Nogukanye Mdambo, Eyewitness News.
The Senzo Meyiwa trial is due back at the Pretoria High Court this morning with the hope that the state's case will continue. The matter has been on ice for months now to allow the lawyer for one of the accused, Moses Sbiya, time to familiarize himself with the case after his lawyer died last week. Sbiya is one of 5 men accused of the football star's 2014 murder in what the state believes was a hit. Khomoto Modise reports.
Advocate Charles Mnisi is no stranger to the Senzo Meyiwa trial as he was appointed to represent him Toby Simncube in 2023 after now disbarred Advocate Malesela Tefo withdrew. But when Tulani Mngomezulu died last year and Moses Sbiya agreed to Mnisi representing him too, he wanted the indulgence similar to one an absolutely new lawyer would require. And this is something Judge Ratamo Kgwatleng allowed, even asking Mnisi how much time he would need. Earlier this month, Mnisi told the court that he'd certainly be ready to proceed this morning. If that's the case, Mnisi will proceed with his second cross-examination of Investigating Officer Bongani Kinenda, this time on behalf of Moses Biya. Modise, Eyewitness News.
And a trial of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro on charges of planning a coup will start today. The nation's Supreme Court will hear from key witnesses, with the far-right politician potentially facing decades in prison. More than 80 people, including high-ranking military officers, former government ministers and police and intelligence officials, are to testify in a preliminary trial or trial phase that's expected to last for at least 2 weeks. Bolsonaro could face up to 40 years in prison if convicted of plotting to remain in office after his rival, Lula da Silva, had defeated him in October's 2022 elections. Gold is trading at $3,216.71 an ounce. The rand is at 18.05 to the dollar, 23.99 to the pound, 20.18 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.18 a barrel.
In Lenasia, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the R554. That's Nirvana Drive between the N12 Golden Highway as well as Klipspruit Valley. There's also slow-moving traffic heading into Diepkloof, Soweto. That's on the N12 westbound between the Uncle Charlie's interchange and the Diepkloof interchange. And in the Joburg CBD, expect some delays. M2 west between Heidelberg Road and the Crown interchange.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 23 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Paramedics have arrived in Soweto near the Diepkloof hostel, where the body of a man was found amid a service delivery protest.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Walk for something greater in the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Get your tickets now on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Seven minutes after 10 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. You are on 702. My name is Thabo Shole-Mashao. I'm in for Clement. We're together till 12. Really appreciate your time that you've spent with us, especially in the first hour where we had the open line. We touched on a variety of issues, and your contribution, as always, your contribution is completely astute and invaluable. You have this way of seeing things and opening our eyes to all these things. So really appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed. Whenever we ask you to call, and you do, it's not a given. It's really not a given. I don't take it lightly at all, and none of us do. None of us take it lightly here at 702. We really are grateful for your efforts in shaping the narrative of the country. One of the important things that we would want to chat on in the next few seconds would be the matter of the SANDF, and my guest will be Advocate Pikkie Greeff. It's 8 minutes after 10 o'clock.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
You might have seen reports about South African soldiers that are stationed in Goma and in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They're still waiting for buses that were promised to transport them out of the area. The story is not new to you at all. Bongani Bingwa touched on it earlier in the morning, and you raised some of your views, and we thought we'll hear from people who are closer to the soldiers, especially the union that represents a number of those soldiers. Delays have been blamed on a few matters. They've said that it's lack of funds, among others. Meanwhile, about half of the military's equipment in Goma and the nearby Cwecwe has already been moved out by a truck to Tanzania. Advocate Pikkie Greeff is National Secretary of the South African National Defence Union, and he is the Secretary. Pikkie Greeff, Advocate Pikkie Greeff, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702 once again. Good morning.
Good morning to the listeners as well.
Clearly you're not impressed by this, but you have your ear on the ground. What are some of your members saying when they complain to you about this?
Yeah, I think there's conflicting stories coming from the ground. You on the one side you have those members who spoke to the media saying that financial constraints are keeping the buses from arriving, and that they are uninformed. And then we have other members who contact us directly to say that the authorities for the buses, the financial authorities, has already been approved. It's just a question of time. And the withdrawal plan basically consists of moving the equipment first and then the personnel. So the equipment movement is still underway, and the troops that are there are, they basically have to accept the fact that they will only start moving probably next week or the week thereafter. As soon as the equipment is gone, they'll move. It's not a question of finances at all. I've been able to establish that with very high-ranking officials this morning.
So it's not finances, is it just purely logistic?
It's logistic. Remember now, the equipment needs to be loaded by personnel, which is not a small task at all. So it's all hands on deck, so to speak. Plus, you have to keep on feeding those troops and having their own logistical arrangements in base. So personnel is needed in the base still. There's a small contingent outside of the DRC who accompanies the equipment that's traveling. But yeah, that's the situation. It's not ideal. Remember, I think one thing that we should all remember and have a lot of respect for is that those troops have been there now. It's month 16. Without seeing their families. Some of them have not been able to move, even though they had children and family members pass away.
Do we have a time frame of sorts, especially given that you have been in interaction with authorities at the SANDF, as to when this will be concluded?
Yeah, it's very difficult, on a huge logistical exercise to put exact dates. That would be very irresponsible. But I was told this morning that the troops, the personnel themselves, should start moving somewhere next week, sometime next week. Then those movements should start, if all goes well, in terms of removing the equipment.
Advocate Greeff, what is their morale like, especially of those who are behind right now? Are their spirits up, looking obviously forward to coming back home, but just generally being stuck there for one reason or the other? Give us a bit of an insight on the mood. Do they feel deflated, defeated, and somehow despondent?
I think despondent is the word, and demoralized, and very disappointed. I think that's something that came up in many of the conversations that we had with members there, is the disappointment, the feeling that they were let down all along through the entire deployment since last January, or January 2024. It's just a complete low morale. There's also a positive side. It shows you the grit of the people that is in uniform, the South Africans that are out there for us representing our country. It's not ideal situations. They're not happy, but they know they have a task to do, and I do believe they'll bite the bullet and they'll get through it.
What could have been done better? Are there any lessons to take from this that should we find ourselves in this situation again, perhaps we must turn a different chapter altogether?
Absolutely. From March last year, even the previous Minister of Defense was blaming SADC for the logistical shortcomings, such as ablution facilities that didn't arrive on time, accommodation tents, that kind of thing. And again, SADC has been dithering on this deployment. It's changed its plans. It hasn't delivered on logistical supply lines like it was supposed to. And maybe one lesson we could learn from this, and this is what a lot of military experts I see has also been saying, is that maybe if this is the way that SADC is going to support us, we should relook our future cooperation with SADC. Or at least if we are going to deploy with SADC, we should see to it that we ourselves as an SANDF are properly equipped. We have the necessary air support, logistical support of our own means and our own forces, to simplify this kind of exercise. To rely on other people who seem to be unreliable or, not always coming to the party, so to speak, it's very difficult. It leaves your troops and your forces in a very difficult situation if you don't have logistical control yourself over them.
14 minutes after 10 o'clock, you're on 702. My guest is Advocate Pikkie Greeff, he who is with the SA National Defence Union, where he is National Secretary. And we are just ventilating the issue of some members who have not returned of the SANDF. You'd remember that very horrid story of DRC and how they were just literally under siege as far as being surrounded by the local army, and negotiations had to be undertaken in order for them to come back home. There have been some delays, and Advocate Pikkie Greeff does mention that many of those are just logistical. You can't just leave your equipment there, and as far as them coming home, there is a certainty, but the timelines are not as clear as they should be right now. You could have an issue or two to raise. You're most welcome to do so on 011-883-0702. Alternatively, send your voice note to 072-702-1702. I would love to hear from you about that. Advocate Greeff, let's look at the allegations and speculations, if you will, that have been in and around. And I'm deferring to you on this one because you would have access to members. You would know far more than many of us do. And given your position at the union, fortunately, you won't necessarily be singing praises unnecessarily so of the SANDF. I would like to find out, people have been mentioning and bending this around that there were commercial interests of prominent politicians that were protected in the DRC over and above this mission being a SADC mission. Actually, some even claim that this is just a nice cover-up of SADC. Whether that it's there or not, it's a story for another day. But hearing from your members, were they deployed in some strategic commercial sites or areas where it could have been verified that indeed there were some commercial interests at work, more than just regional concerns?
No, what I can tell you is not that's not what we've been told. Their mission there has always been to try and eliminate the M23 influence. I know that the narrative is that they were there to bring the situation to where there can be peace talks, but the practical issue on the ground was they were always in pursuit with the DRC forces of the M23 rebels and trying to eliminate those forces. That it was a military operation, it's nothing of what we got feedback on would indicate that it was actually a cover-up for some other deeper, issue like a commercial interest or whatever the case may be. It was always about eliminating M23. Ironically, of course, we can see from the outcome that M23 was not eliminated. It's quite the opposite.
Let me ask you a question that I asked Siphiwe Dlamini about 2 weeks back on the station. Do you feel that some heads should roll after this? Should people be fired right at the top? And if so, whom?
I would be very wary to make comments on that, other than to say that it is quite clear that we were deployed in circumstances where we should not have been deployed because we didn't have the necessary support, logistical support, air support, and so on. If you deploy with someone like SADC, a party like SADC, and they don't deliver, it's very difficult to point fingers at our own command cadres. But there's also, we feel very strongly at the union about the fact that, a chief of a defense force, and I'm not specifically pointing out to anybody, I'm just saying in theory, ideally a chief of a defense force who knows that the expectation of a deployment is too much of a burden on what they have available in terms of equipment and support. That such a chief should be able to stand up to politicians and say this is the situation. I'm not saying that the Defence Force should refuse such political decisions. It's simply they should be very, very public about what they can do and can't do, and the fact that they are going into a very risky situation. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of leadership in the Defence Force.
Where to from now on, as far as our troops are concerned. They coming back home, and I'm sure that they'll be processed, debriefed accordingly. Do we have any psychosocial support that has been set up for them? This has been clearly traumatic, even for those who've been watching from the sidelines, more so for those who are directly involved.
I think it's the first time in history that our troops have been in such a situation. I think even at the Battle of Bangui, that was over quite quickly, and the troops left. Sad to say, but now 11, 12 years later, there are still some of those troops who haven't had the necessary support, psychological support, and so on, and they're still carrying the scars of those that trauma with them. The Defence Force has said that it will provide support, but we have very often learned in the past that what the Defence Force says it will do and provide is completely different from the reality once those troops return. And we're going to be as a union, we are going to be very insistent on proper psychological support for these troops. To sit there for 4 or 5 months and not know whether you'll see the light of day the next day, that is tremendously traumatic on anybody.
727021702.
Good morning, 702. 2 questions, if I may, please. First off, what were the soldiers, the South African Defence Force, doing in the Congo, first off? Secondly is, why is it whatever the South African government touches turns to manure? And plus, the other thing as well, so make it 3, is was the army there to protect Zuma ANC interests? Thank you, Jeff.
Thabo, I really don't understand if our government had to arrange Patakos or Northwest Star or Tari from South Africa to go all the way to the Central Africa to fetch the soldiers and come back to South Africa and say, no, we could not get the buses couldn't fetch the guys. So I don't understand. How would the buses fetch the guys if they did not arrange for the buses to fetch the guys, And I don't know, if they are arranging buses from that side in Central Africa to fetch the guys and drive all the way to South Africa, that must be arranged. Payment, they must receive invoices, payment must be made, then the buses can go and fetch those people. How do you then say the buses couldn't fetch the people if nothing was arranged?
Well, Advocate Greeff, do you want to give it a step?
I just think, it's a bit impractical to expect buses to leave from South Africa and go all the way to the eastern DRC. Clearly, not everybody is familiar with the situation on the roads. There's no highways going there. So it's very impractical. What is rather going to happen is that local buses are sourced in the DRC, and there is a road to Goma, and there is a road to the closest airport in Tanzania. So that's the most practical arrangement, and those arrangements, as I've said earlier, have been made. It's just a question of logistics now and time. The troops just have to be patient for a week or 2, and those buses will take them to the airport, and they'll fly back to South Africa.
So, mission not accomplished. The status quo remains in Goma and the surrounding areas, generally in the DRC. Does it mean that we are going to see this 2.0?
I'm not sure. I think that the Defence Force should very seriously reconsider its capabilities on deployment, given the state that the Defence Force is in. 80% of our units, for instance, where we have shop stewards, have reported to us that they don't even have boots in the stores for the troops. It's a dismal situation. Our Air Force is basically crippled to the point of, being an Air Force in name only. And then, this is not criticism. This is just the reality of the situation. It's very sad. As a South African, it makes me very sad to think that things have digressed to that state. We should really work and concentrate very hard on re-establishing our Defence Force as a force of note. And unfortunately, it's not something you're going to fix in a year. To fix a Defence Force takes decades, literally. But the longer you wait, the worse it'll get.
Where do we start? right now, given the status quo, given the current temperature inside the Defence Force, in your opinion, in your expertise opinion, Advocate Greeff, where do we start? I mean, do we start right at the top, because some will argue that the fish rots from the head? Do we go straight to the politicians and come all the way down? Clearly, the implications are dire for such much publicized incompetence for a country such as ours.
I think it starts with the public. To be honest, I think the public must really take to heart the fact that this is our only layer of security we have as South Africans. The Defence Force is our last stand. So we should look after it, and we should be very, very insistent that the Defence Force be fixed. Secondly, I think a lot of dishonesty has surrounded this entire debacle. Media releases were made, or statements were made afterwards at the press conferences, that in fact the mission was a success and the deployment was successful. Well, it wasn't. It clearly wasn't. So honesty is needed, and we need, as a public, to insist on honesty and looking the facts in the eyes. And then we need to, tone down on the egos a bit. This is my advice to the politicians and even Defence Command. Tone down on the egos. It's not about politicians and commanders being criticized. It's about South Africans being concerned that they have a proper functioning Defence Force. So listen to the people and listen to the soldiers, because they'll tell you what's wrong and they'll tell you what they need. And then thirdly, when I say let go of the ego, rope in the experts. There are many, many very, very good military experts and analysts in this country and available to this country, willing to serve this country. Pull them in, sit down, write another defense review. This time, be serious about executing it, fund it properly, and manage it properly. And that's the things we should start looking at. If we don't have that part right, nothing will ever be fixed.
0727021702. Speaking of which, this text message says, Thabo, they're saying DF, thereby taxpayers, is so overburdened by generals that South Africa is more generals than the whole of the US. This is clearly a case of too many chiefs being paid a small fortune and still not being able to deliver what is required. The generals should be held accountable for the matter of SA deployees. Another text message that came through says our Defence Force is non-existent. What are we going to do if any country declare war on South Africa? The best we can do is hoist a huge white flag. Sad, scary, and completely pathetic. Voice note.
Morning, Thabo. We are no longer in our prime when it comes to defense, and safety is like a big joke in this country. So much so that extortionists do as they please, taxi driver do as they please, prosecution non-existent. So much so that if we cannot guarantee our normal citizens' safety and security, we are failing, because security is everybody's given right. So we are failing. That from Pretoria.
Thanks, Ntate Moruti. Pikkie Greeff, as you say goodbye, let me just throw in a number of things, if you could just infuse them with the voice notes that I have read, including the one that mentions that we have too many generals at the top. And the person does mention that they are incompetent, they don't know much, but we have too many at the top who are screaming orders and not doing as much. Let's talk a little bit, we have a minute and a half, about the budget. Is it how it is spent, or do we need truly to inject more into that budget?
We do need to inject more into the budget. I see the reports about the salaries being 60% of the budget, but that's what you'll get if you need the same amount of soldiers to operate a defense force, but you keep on shrinking the budget. It means the salary part of the budget will increase. Percentage-wise. The defense budget needs to be at least 1.5 to 2% of the GDP. That's number one. That's what we should be working to, but we all know what the financial situation in South Africa is currently, but that's seriously what one has to work to. Secondly, I think there is some argument to be made for trimming the top, but it's certainly not the fact that there are many generals that the reason why the defense budget is insufficient. It's just purely insufficient because it's not big enough. Many of those generals, those posts are actually not really needed, and it can be trimmed down, but that won't make a significant impact on the budget. And I think also I hear people getting very negative about the Defence Force, but I want to assure people, the ordinary men and women of this country serve in that Defence Force. Their hearts and minds are really into it. All they're asking for is the necessary support from the public and the pressure from the public to see to that they are properly equipped to do their jobs.
Really appreciate your time, Advocate Pikkie Greeff, National Secretary of the South African National Defence Union. It's exactly 10:30. Sfiso Zulu will give us the very latest on Eyewitness News headlines. Once again, good morning, Sfiso.
Thanks, Thabo. Good morning. One person has died in Diepkloof amid a service delivery protest at the local hostel. Peak traffic was at a standstill this morning around Soweto when protesting residents blocked the Diepkloof interchange with burning tyres, rubble and debris. The protest is over a long-standing grievance related to the lack of adequate houses. The NPA has filed an extradition request to the Namibian government for 2 suspects linked to the burglary at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm. The trial into the theft of foreign currency begins today at the Modimolle Regional Court in Limpopo. Siblings Filiona and David Joseph, along with their accomplice Emanuela David, are accused of breaking into the Limpopo farm in 2020 and making off with $580,000 in cash. And the EFF will hold what it calls a victory march in Pretoria this morning to pat itself on the back for the withdrawal of proposals to hike the value-added tax. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana withdrew his bid to implement a 0.5 percentage point VAT increase last month following a 2-month impasse over the fiscal framework. EFF leader Julius Malema is expected to lead the march from the Union Building to National Treasury offices in the city centre. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, heading into Soweto, there's bumper traffic on the N12 westbound. That's approaching the Diepkloof interchange. Also slow-moving traffic leaving the Joburg CBD. That's on the M2 westbound between the Crown interchange and Main Reef Road. Otherwise, the rest of Gauteng has settled down pretty nicely. No serious accidents have been reported at this hour. Just look out for those faulty traffic lights, though. In Edenville, Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck, traffic lights also not working in Rand Park Ridge, at Bayers Nodia and the N1. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9. Izzy Kirsch, the founder of 702 and Prime Media, passed away back in 1980 when censorship was choking truth. He launched 702 as a bold, independent platform where all voices could be heard. And he wasn't just starting a radio station, he started a movement.
Correct. There's absolutely no doubt about it. If you wanted to know what was going on in South Africa in those years, you went to 702 and you went nowhere else.
We still try and keep that legacy alive, Chris Gibbons.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Just in, Zandile, a 36-year-old woman, has added an unbelievable 918 more to her monthly budget. She switched to Outsurance and now saves 918 Rand a month on her 2024 Cherry Tigo 1.5 litre. Outsurance clients always get something out. You could too. Get a quote today and see how much they could save you. Why pay more when you could pay less? Switch to Outsurance today. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
If you knew the future, you'd be brave. Well, now you can be with Volvo's guaranteed future value. Get your EX30 from 9,999 per month, and after 48 months, return, upgrade or keep. It's safe to be brave with Volvo. based on 6.13% interest, 48-month term, 10% deposit and 52% GFE. Initiation fee of 1,207.50 and monthly service fee is 69 Rand. Total cost of credit is 904,500. Finance officer subject to approval from Volvo Car Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. NCRCP 20. T's and C's apply.
For all your home improvement needs, Leroy Merlin is the perfect destination to bring your inspiration to life. Get the Delinia Elaine Spring Neck Kitchen Mixer Tap that was 2,899, now 2,399. And the Spacio 5-tier metal shelf was 1,425, now 999. Explore all our ranges at your nearest Leroy Merlin or shop online until 27 May. Leroy Merlin, opening in Centurion on 30 May. Make your home the best place to live. T's and C's apply.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
What positive elements are being spoken about this time with the B20?
Business is an essential stakeholder when it comes to the work of the G20. The policies, the discussions, the decisions taken by the G20 will influence business, and indeed businesses are essential for the governments that are represented by the G20s.
Dr. Anthony Costa, the head of Secretariat for B20 South Africa.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025. ABSA is a registered FSP. Your story matters. 702. Let's walk the talk. Let's walk the talk.
702.
24 minutes to 11 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. In the previous half hour, we were speaking to Advocate Pikkie Greeff of the SANDF National Union, and we were just touching on some difficulties that are experienced in the DRC for some of our troops to come back home. We've had various conflicting reports. Some are saying that it's purely logistical issues, whilst others are saying, well, there were elements of incompetence, arrangements were not done properly, and we wanted to find out when will they be back eventually. Thanks for participating in that session. Right now, though, all the way up until 11, we would like to look at the matter of the man who's been hovering like a dark cloud over the South African space, and that is Timothy Omotoso.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
23 minutes to 11 o'clock. The National Prosecuting Authority said that if its appeal against acquittal of controversial Nigerian televangelist Omotoso is successful, it will ask for his extradition from Nigeria. You'd know that he was extradited to that country. And as a result, we just wanted to find out the very latest, especially from the NPA. Advocate Mthunzi Mhaga joins us right now, and he speaks on behalf of the NPA. Advocate Mhaga, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702 one more time.
To your listeners, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate your time. Firstly, of course, the extradition must be a feather on your cap, rather, and I suppose another star on your epaulette. You do feel some element of pride about that, but the battle is yet to be won of getting the appeal waved towards your side. How far is that? But most importantly, wasn't it counterproductive to get him out, only to try to get him back into the country?
The difficulty, Thabo, is that Home Affairs ran the process of facilitating his departure from the country. There were engagements at an operational and a strategic level with Home Affairs because we are a government that talks to itself. Unfortunately, he is not a fugitive from justice. He was cleared by a court of law. And therefore he could not be prevented from leaving the country. Secondly, the presence in the country was undesirable because he was illegal in the country, and therefore we could not prevent his departure. It has a bearing on the appeal insofar as if we succeed in the SCA, we would have to extradite him back to South Africa, unlike a situation where if he was in the country, a committal warrant would be obtained if there is an order that he should be convicted or sent to jail whatsoever. But the process is that an appeal process has kick-started in that we requested the judge who presided over his acquittal judgment to clarify certain factual findings in order for us to finalize our questions of law that we will be asking her to reserve for consideration by the SCA.
And which are those, if you don't mind, one or two just high level?
We take the view, firmly so, that the Honorable Judge, in acquitting Omotoso, misdirected herself in applying the law to the facts. There was not much attempt made to evaluate the evidence in respect of each witness who testified on behalf of the state. We then take the view that in applying the law in a number of instances, when we talk to similar fact evidence, the SCA may arrive at a different conclusion.
And having said that, you don't foresee any difficulties with getting him back into the country, should you be successful?
We have an extradition treaty with Nigeria that was signed in 2002 and ratified in 2004. We hope that we will not have hurdles to navigate that much, given our success rate in extraditing people to South Africa. You remember that there is a trial of asbestos in Bloemfontein in respect of Cholota, who was successfully extradited from the United States. We brought Shrin Diwane from the UK. Bushiri's extradition was successful partly in respect of 3 charges, though he's still appealing.
Yeah, notwithstanding various hurdles, time, postponements, and I would assume going with that sizable resources to get that done.
Of course, it's costly, but it's worth it.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that, I mean, those hurdles, I suppose, could have been short-circuited somehow. But lastly, before I say goodbye to you, and I know that we've just grabbed you out of the meeting quickly to have this chat with us, I want to release you as soon as possible. There's a concern, if you don't mind, allow me just to indulge me for a second. The Justice for Cwecwe issue, and that's just a bit of a concern, if you don't mind, Advocate Maga. Why do you drop the charges? Do you intend on reinstating them? What's the latest on that?
A point of correction, Thabo. The charges have not been dropped. You only drop charges when they were placed before the court. So in this instance, a police docket was presented to prosecutors in Matatiel, and upon interviewing the minor girl and an examination conducted by medical practitioners, an interview with a forensic social worker, the prosecutors concluded that there is no evidence of sexual assault or rape, and there are no implicated persons, and therefore the charges could not be sustained if the matter were to be taken to court. They took a decision to decline and returned the docket to the police officers. Of course, the police officers decided to pursue the matter in terms of investigations, and on Friday they returned the docket or resubmitted it to the Director of Public Prosecutions in Mthatha, which oversees lower court prosecutors. We don't know what is contained in that docket at the moment because they only started looking at it today. But the decision of November 2024 still stands.
And I suppose working very close to the police, we will hear from you about that, as you would imagine, the importance of the case and how it has shaken the nation. Advocate Maga, thanks for your time one more time, and let's chat very soon.
Thank you, my brother.
Advocate Mthunzi Maga of the NPA. It's 17 minutes to 11 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Dion Free. Winning requires audacity. That's why I joined African Bank and opened a 60-month fixed-term investment account. I'm scoring 12.8% interest at expiry on my investment. How cool is that? You too can join the bank that backs you to grow your money. Pop into a branch near you or visit africanbank.co.za. African Bank. Audacity to believe. African Bank is a licensed financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Oh, Shane, do you have a sore throat? The Andalex range of lozenges offers two options. At the first signs of an irritated, scratchy throat, use Andalex lozenges for dual action, soothing relief. But for a painful, inflamed throat, use Andalex C lozenges for triple action, pain relief. Andalex, SA's #1 choice for a sore mouth and throat. Andalex lozenges are available at all leading pharmacies and supermarkets.
Just Andalex it. 9 stores, 11 days, endless DIY adventure. The famous Chamberlain Carnival is here as we offer hundreds of out-of-this-world deals. Join us from 22 May to 1st June as we turn every aisle into a galaxy of deals. Shop in store and stand a chance to win your share of 90,000 Rand in prizes. Get 20% off paint mixing and savings on everything from lighting to lawnmowers. Enjoy free popcorn, candy floss and the sounds of the Mac Chamberlain Highlanders Pipe Band. Chamberlain, famous for hardware since 1903.
The time to honor our past and step into a shared future as a team is here. Corporate hospitality and team entries for the CS702 Walk the Talk are now open. Bring your colleagues together on Sunday, 27 July to walk through this historic Freedom Park heritage site, past national landmarks and finish at the Union buildings. To book hospitality, email hospitality@raceoffice.co.za. For corporate entries, visit primemediaplus.com. Entries close Friday, 18 July, 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park Heritage Site in the city of Tshwane, where footsteps become footprints.
For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
Still on that Timothy Omotoso note, we then speak to Bafana Khumalo's Executive Director at Sonke Gender Justice. As you would remember that this matter, especially the one that he was charged with, where he got a very shocking acquittal, had to do with gender issues. Thus, we've invited Bafana Khumalo to come and help us with these issues. Mr. Khumalo, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702. Good morning. I hope you're well.
Thank you, Thabo, and for inviting us, and morning to your listeners.
Your disappointments on the acquittal of the controversial Timothy Omotoso have been well registered publicly. But where to from here as the NPA contemplates or has started the process of the appeal?
Well, Thabo, we are at a loss as to how this matter is going to be appealed. I heard Advocate Maga's arguments, which are cogent in terms of the legal argument. The bigger question for us is, why did this case get botched in the first place? We had a strong case. We had young women who came forward, who were brave to tell, the court and the whole world, as it were, who made themselves vulnerable by revisiting their trauma of what was visited on them by this man, and spent 8 years, waiting for justice. 8 years later, they are nowhere near seeing justice and closure to the trauma that they've gone through. And I listened to the NPA, in engagement with parliamentarians last week, Friday or Thursday. I don't feel comfortable as I sit here that, in fact, we have an NPA that is caring, that is cognizant of the gravity of the pain that these young women have gone through. And it's really worrying for us. What does it mean for society? What does it mean for other young women who are exposed to this kind of violation? Should they come forward and report? What would be the point when a case like this, which was very clear, had lots of evidence adduced, and yet was botched by those that we trust to do justice? So really, it raises a lot of questions, and it really makes us comfortable.
Yeah, and I want us to touch on that a little bit more, because I'm interested in knowing your next steps as to what do you intend doing to petition the NPA or Parliament or the powers that be in order to not just to resuscitate the case, but to give it more oomph, better attention that it deserves. Because we do remember that the judge's ruling was also scathing on the NPA and mentioning issues of the definition of rape not being well understood as well. Allow me to ask a bit of a nuanced question as a gender activist. Some of Omotoso's co-accused were females, Lusanda Sulani and Zugiswa Sito, and they were also not found guilty on those 32 charges, as we now know. I am just wondering, those who are still supporting Omotoso in this instance, and his congregation and his supporters, in your view, what fuels that? Because in an ideal world, one would think that there would be not just camaraderie, but at worst, solidarity as far as this gender-sensitive case is concerned.
Well, Thabo, that's a vexing question because, as you know, I always make a point that we live in a patriarchal society. It's very sad how patriarchy co-opts even women basically to bolster and protect patriarchy. It's a sad story that in court, we saw many women who were basically protecting a perpetrator, an alleged perpetrator of violence against women. But this is not new, as we all know. We have seen this before with other leaders in our country. And my argument is it's very straightforward. Patriarchy has indeed managed to hoodwink all of us to think, men have to be protected at all costs, even when we are found wanting. It's even worse when you are talking about strong men, men of power, men of influence. You will have those that will always be falling all over to make sure that they protect those that they consider to be, powerful men. It's a very sad case, of course, but this is the reality that confronts us, and it's not isolated to the case, as I say.
Yeah.
Many others.
This, as an activist, this is squarely on your desk, right? And as an institution as well of government, this is squarely on your... Where to from here? What are you going to do as the gender justice to, one, not just raise awareness, but to really shake the tree, to move beyond rhetoric? And I'm not blaming you at all, and I'm not in any way attempting to point the finger at you. It's Omotoso who did this. There's a thorough understanding of that. He must take the heat. There's an NPA, as you rightly said, that perhaps didn't handle this appropriately. But there's also an issue of gender that has to be addressed in the country. And people may even be despondent and argue that we have been here so many times. Omotoso's case is one of many that have not been publicized at all. Where are the wins to give the victims a bit of hope? What are the plans that are perhaps afoot to take the struggle a bit further? Or else it appears as though we will all become numb and these will just become platitudes. And by these, I mean gender justice issues and women rights, and they'll just become platitudes that are rolling off our tongues for political and social convenience. Bafana Khumalo.
Well, there are at least three things that we will be doing, Thabo, and this is not just us as Sonke Gender Justice, but our partners in civil society. One, we will be holding the NPA accountable by monitoring the commitments that they have made. It's the right thing that they are appealing. Of course, we want them to proceed with that to make sure that, at least for ensuring that our jurisprudence can address these matters going forward, whatever was wrong in the application of the law is corrected. So we'll hold them accountable. I hope they will not now say, well, the man has gone, it's a moot point, but they will sustain that. And I'm pleased that Ms. Advocate Maka said, if indeed the appeal court does rule in their favor, they will exercise the proceedings to bring him back to the country. Because we do think that there needs to be accountability. Secondly, we will also monitor. The NPA director has assured us that the performance of the prosecutors, which was found wanting, and actually the judge was scathing and it's not one team of prosecutors, which is also concerning. You know that there was a prosecutor who set up a WhatsApp group, put all the people who were going to go to court, began to almost influence how they should be giving evidence. I've never heard of anything like that anywhere. Now, why a prosecutor would do that really boggles the mind. And we hope that in that investigation, all these things will be ventilated so that there's accountability for the failures of the system in that regard. And those that took over, why is it that the judge has been so scathing about things that were expected of them to do as the lawyers of the people, and they did not do them? So we would like to see what that report will say. But thirdly, you may know, Thabo, that SONKA is part of what we call Men Engage, which is a global consortium, and we have a presence in Africa in almost 25 countries. We have partners in Nigeria. We are going to be sharing this information with them because the fact that Omotoso has gone to Nigeria, where we have means of also mobilizing those where he has gone to so that they also continue to give watch on what he is doing. What we know with perpetrators is that they don't do this in isolation. It means there's a culture of doing these things.
Certainly.
So we'll be briefing our partners in Nigeria with full information so that they begin to take up advocacy in Nigeria so that there's no room for this man to simply escape as just a church leader.
So you spoke of the culture of doing this, and I concur with you. And there is an element of impunity that goes with that culture as well. And Omotoso's acquittal may perpetuate that trend. And whilst the NPA can afford to be reactive as a gender justice institute, you can afford to be proactive through your initiatives. Do you have anything in mind or planning or strategic in any way that seeks to put a spotlight on these exploitative, abusive, and nefarious characters masquerading as prophets, priests, and men of the cloth, preying on vulnerable women? Because many of them are out there, and his acquittal, Omotoso's acquittal, may have just given them a stamp of approval to continue.
Yeah, Thabo, you're raising a very critical point. You may be aware there's another prominent faith leader who is in court for almost similar things.
Yeah.
It's good to also acknowledge that there were some cases, I think one in Mpumalanga, where the court have ruled, against that leader, and I think another one in Limpopo. So we do need, I think, as society to say, how do we consistently support efforts by organizations like the Commission for Religion and Linguistic Communities? Because the sad part, Thabo, is that CRL did an investigation which was thorough.
Yes.
They produced a report, took it to Parliament with very thoroughgoing recommendations, which were meant to ensure that there's proper accountability within this sector. Now, you must ask me if anything has happened to that, including the parliamentarians that were complaining last week about the NPA rule. We also need to put a spotlight on why is it that our leaders in Parliament, when recommendations are made by state institutions on such critical matters, nothing happens to those reports.
Yeah, Bafana Khumalo, sadly we'll have to leave it at that. He is co-executive director at SONKA Gender Justice. 2 minutes to 11 o'clock.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
We're in the private security industry, and by switching to OUTsurance, we save 785 Rand a month. It's an extra tank of fuel, it's extra reward money that we pay our officers. When it comes to insurance, OUTsurance is our security company.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43503 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
It is said that he finished university when he was 7, and when he turned 10, his parents moved out. He once won a rodeo competition, riding an elephant, and he drives a tank. Discover the GWM Tank 300 Turbo Diesel from $7,968 per month. Visit gwm.coza for T's and C's and to book a test drive. Go with more. Go with the new GWM Tank 300 diesel.
Close your eyes. Taste the mist from the Sunny Pass waterfall. Feel the calm beneath the waves in Scottsboro. See the giants in East London. Breathe in the air of the Knysna Forest. Hear the roar of adventure in White River. 5 premier resorts, 5 senses, 5 all-inclusive escapes. Visit premierhotels.co.za for T's and C's and bookings.
This week on 702, RMB Africa Focus explores how technology and innovation is accelerating progress across the continent. From AI and fintech to digital infrastructure, tune in to hear how African markets are embracing advancement in an insightful discussion led by the award-winning journalist Crystal Odison. Find out how digital inclusion and connectivity drive the continent's growth story. Catch RMB Africa Focus on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Pingwa on Tuesday and 702 Drive with John Pullman on Thursday. RMB is a proud sponsor of B20. RMB, a leading African corporate and investment bank.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. 2 people have died in Diepkloof, Soweto following a service delivery protest this morning. Some residents from the local hostel blocked the roads during peak traffic this morning, leaving motorists stranded. The protest is related to accommodation issues, with residents accusing the city of Johannesburg of ignoring their request to develop vacant land for housing. It's unclear how the 2 people died, but Mongezi Koko is in Soweto and joins us now live. Mongezi, take us through this morning's events.
Sfiso, the protest started in the early hours of this morning when the busy Diepkloof interchange was blocked with burning tires and debris. Things took a turn for the worst when 2 trucks were attacked and one was looted. I'm currently standing amid broken glass, oil spills and the overwhelming stench of pill chants from the ransacked delivery truck. Now, Sfiso, a crumpled letter lies in a pool of blood not far from the body of a man still covered with body foil. Nearby, furious residents look on, their eyes filled with rage, some hurling insults and others in tears. Gauteng Police spokesperson Mavada Masondo explained that the situation does remain volatile. He added that 2 people have been confirmed deceased and 1 is currently in hospital. Masondo says officers will remain here for now. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News, reporting live from Diepkloof.
The trial into the burglary at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm has been postponed due to one of the accused being pregnant. Lawyers for Froliana Joseph, a former cleaner at the farm, were granted a 3-month postponement. Froliana, along with her brother David and their accomplice Manuela David, are accused of breaking into the president's farm and making off with $580,000 in cash. The incident allegedly took place on the 9th of February 2020. The NPA has filed an extradition request to the Namibian government for 2 suspects linked to the crime. Tabiso Goba reports.
During the bail application stage, it was confirmed the 3 accused are all South African citizens. However, the alleged burglary mastermind, Emanuela David, told the court that he has family connections in Namibia. The state believes 2 Namibian adult males assisted him in the laundering of the stolen loot. NPA Limpopo spokesperson Mashudu Malabinjangi.
Yeah, for now we're going to proceed with the trial with 3 people. We've already done the process of extradition to get other accused persons, but are not going to be joined with this trial at this stage.
The trial has been scheduled to run for 4 weeks. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News, Limpopo.
The EFF's members have descended down in the capital in Tshwane, where they are about to take place in a victory march this morning to pat themselves on the back for the party's withdrawal of proposals to hike the value-added tax. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana withdrew his bid to implement a 0.5 percentage point VAT increase last month, following a 2-month impasse over the fiscal framework. EFF leader Julius Malema is expected to lead the march from the union buildings to National Treasury offices in the city centre. Alfara Mushwana reports.
The EFF is among several political parties in Parliament claiming credit for the reversal of the value-added tax increase. Action SA, the MK Party, and the DA also believe they played a role in influencing Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's decision to withdraw the VAT hike. Last month, the EFF joined the DA's legal challenge at the Western Cape High Court, which sought to have the VAT increase overturned. The EFF's lawyers argued in court that the ANC used deception to drive the fiscal framework through Parliament. The march by the Red Berets comes ahead of Godongwana's attempt to table yet another budget this week, which is unlikely to feature proposals for a VAT hike. The EFF's supporters are expected to begin gathering at the union buildings at 10 o'clock. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
And Tanzania's opposition leader Tundu Lissu has appeared in court today for his latest hearing in a treason trial in which he faces a potential death penalty. Activists say the case against him is the latest sign that democracy is under threat in several East African nations. An opposition leader is also on trial for treason in neighboring Uganda, and opposition movements facing pressure in several other countries. Lissu's Chadema party has been disqualified from presidential and legislative elections due in October after demanding electoral reforms. He had insisted on attending in person after being forced to appear by video link for earlier hearings. A group of Kenyan rights defenders, including a former Chief Justice, were detained at the airport in Dar es Salaam when they attempted to come and observe the trial. That followed a similar detention and deportation of Kenyan presidential candidate Martha Karua, a former Justice Minister, at the same airport yesterday. Gold is trading at $3,216.71 an ounce. The rand is at 18.04 to the dollar, 23.99 to the pound, 20.18 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.18 a barrel.
Well, at this stage, if you are leaving the Joburg CBD, you can still expect some delays on the M2 westbound between Heidelberg Road and the Crown Interchange. Otherwise, the rest of 702 land looking really good and no accidents have been reported on our highways. Just look out for those faulty traffic lights in Rand Park Ridge at Bears Nordia and the N1.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 23 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. 2 people have died in Diepkloof, Soweto following a service delivery protest this morning.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Entries to the 702 Walk the Talk are open. Go to primemediaplus.com to get your tickets today.
702
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Seven minutes after 11 o'clock, you are still on 702. I'm Thabo in for Clement. We're together till 12. Thanks very much for sticking around with us and being with us here on the headquarters of Talk on 702. Really appreciate it. In the past half hour, we were looking at Timothy Omotoso. We spoke to Bafana Kumalo, who's a co-executive director at the Sonke Gender Justice, about their efforts in trying to not just resuscitate this case, but to bring awareness and to make sure that other culprits out there who are cloaked as men of the cloth, whilst their real deal is being abusive and exploitative to vulnerable women, is dealt with. And we also had a chat with NPA spokesperson Mthunzi Maga. But in this hour, another touchy topic, if I were to say so, it's the impact of financial stress on the family. And this is something that we don't often talk about. Keeping up with the Joneses, right? You think that you are doing worse or better than the next. Quiet competition and silent exchanges. What impact does it have on your family? I'll introduce my guest very shortly. It's 8 minutes after 11 o'clock.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
So I think we all know that economic hardships and financial distress do have devastating effects on various families, whether we like it or not, whether you are extremely wealthy or extremely poor. In tough economic times that we're living in right now, many families lose their jobs. They lose their cars, they lose their homes, the lifestyle changes, kids move from this school to the next, and it becomes really, really difficult, especially financially. And it can have a serious impact on a family life that is wherein dynamics change, relationships shift, and some would even argue controversially that even respect dissipates under such circumstances. But I'm not an expert in this. The questions yet remain the same. Have you or your family faced these financial stressful situations? And what impact does this have on your family? Once again, I urge you, feel free to remain anonymous if you want to. There's no judgment. No one is going to pass judgment on you. Nonetheless, I would want to hear from you, because your voice may actually help the next person to realize that they are not the only ones in this dire situation. Your voice may help someone stand up, and your voice may even liberate you to face another day. It becomes very difficult, especially for parents, when they don't know how they will move from one day to the next. Faced with financial distress, they don't know how to move on. It becomes so difficult for them because kids are there. Kids are expecting to eat. They're competing with their friends, wearing different clothing labels at school. But just the general upkeep, even if we are not talking about luxurious items, just the general upkeep. As a parent, when you are thinking, goodness me, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with these financial difficulties that are facing me? So feel free to join us on this conversation. We have an expert, Dr. Thabo Shole-Mashao, who's clinical psychologist, is joining us right now to help us through these very difficult, meandering journey of finance meets family. Dr. Thabo, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702. Hi.
Good morning. Good morning to the listeners. Thank you for having me.
Can financial distress really bring about a change or a certain dynamic to a family life that was otherwise taking a different path?
Most definitely. Finances impact so many areas of our lives. And if we are not meeting the basic needs, it can impact a person, psychologically, emotionally, just overall. Even they just having that faith that things will change, it can also take a knock. So meaning the spiritual dimension as well can be impacted if someone is someone with usually who has strong faith or is a strong believer. So definitely, yes, it can impact also the relationships within the family members when there's a lack. Anybody functioning from a place of lack, meaning, they're not themselves, it can really hamper their psychological function.
So, Dr. Thabo, let me ask a very direct question, and we'll unpack the rest as we go along. Let's start first between the spouses in the household, and I don't want necessarily to limit it to gender, but can it really reduce respect from one spouse to the other?
Definitely, if a person's worth or how the perspective about what money does and what it means to be in that relationship where one is, a quote, societally, for example, seen as a provider and they're unable to provide. So if the other partner really sees them as lacking, it can create quite a lot of conflict and quite a lot of problems within the couple dimension, definitely. And it can create a lot of anxiety because, life is unpredictable. You can one day be a provider and the next day be unable to provide for many reasons. And if the family or the couple is unable to process that lack, it can create a lot of tension and conflict within that dynamic.
Leading ultimately to separation or divorce?
Sadly, in some instances, yes, because the disrespect, if you are constantly being disrespected daily, it can lead to a lot of anger, there's just a lot of poor coping mechanisms, a lot of fighting, and yes, in some instances, sadly, separation and divorce are put on the plate because of the financial difficulties.
That then, I suppose, philosophically suggests that love is not enough to sustain a family. It needs a bit of assistance every now and then from money and resources.
You know, when we go into relationships, we don't often sit down and talk and have authentic, difficult conversations about money, about the expectations. I think they're almost subtle and they're not put forward in that relationship before the actual union. So we don't talk about how, you know, for example, one partner wants or expects the other partner to provide continually and to never be broke. Right. And we also just expect, we don't have those conversations. And then when stress comes, the authentic self comes out, because I don't believe people actually change. I believe they become themselves when they are put under stress. So meaning if you've always wanted your partner to be the provider, but it was never conversed about, and when they're unable to provide, when you disrespect them, it shows that, you know, it was always going to be there. It just was never, it was never playing out. So we really need to understand when we go into partnerships, into marriages, into relationships, that we sit down and discuss those things, because I think we think they should be automatic. We have subtle expectations. Society also has its own expectations that people sometimes internalize, but they don't talk about them and plan them and be intentional. Right? We always think that, we will see as time goes on, we'll make it work. But when, you know, things happen, that's when you realize that people were actually always on different pages regarding certain values.
Dr. Thabo Shole-Mashao is a clinical psychologist. She's my guest on the show today. And this segment is called Family Matters, every Monday between 11 and 12 on Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Thabo Shole-Mashao. Clement is not around, and we are together all the way till top of the hour. And we are really dissecting or trying to dissect this very difficult topic of family meets finance and the impact of financial stress on the family. You might have experienced this. You might be experiencing this. I hope not. And it might be that you know someone who's going through this. How do you navigate these waters? How do you get out of it? How do you deal with it whilst you are still stuck in that situation before things improve, at least financially? Have you seen your partner taking a different posture to the one that he or she used to take prior to you losing money, you going through financial difficulties? Or are you a unit? You still stick together through the good times and the bad times? I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send us a voice note on 072 702 1702, a text message to the very same number. Alternatively, which is what I would prefer, give us a call on 011 883 0702. Feel free to change your name. Feel free to remain anonymous. I know how difficult these things can be to deal with. You might feel that you're in a corner so much that you don't want to face up your family. You don't want to face them after work. Or there are some guys and there are some people, some couples out there where one partner is pretending to still be employed in order to maintain that family ethos that they've been working on for years and years. Even though they're out of a job, they still wake up in the morning pretending to be in their employ so that they can just try to keep that together, knowing what their partner would be like if they knew that they don't have a job. Share those with us, and we do have someone who can guide us through that. As I said, it's Dr. Thabo Shole-Mashao, clinical psychologist. 18 minutes after 11.
It took time to create the life you've built. Every milestone, every moment, you've earned it. Indra takes the time to understand what's priceless to you, tailoring insurance to match a life of distinction. True peace of mind comes from knowing that everything you've worked for is insured with precision. It starts with a conversation. It starts with helloindra.co.za. Indra Risk Services is an authorized financial services provider.
Cwecwe is taking you to dizzying new heights in one of the world's most popular games, Aviator. Place your bets and watch the multiplier climb higher and higher. Pick the right time to cash out and stand to win millions on a single bet. It's all possible from the palm of your hand. Get way more only at Betway. Betway is licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. South African Responsible Gambling Program toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Winners know when to stop.
It's that time of the year. Sore throats, congestion, wet and dry coughs, pain and fever. For trusted relief for you and your family, ask your pharmacist to recommend a winter survival pack from the Advocate Pikkie OTC range. With products like Medikil A, Expigen, Corenza Paracy, Adcorapamol, Dilinct Junior and more, we have you covered this winter. Remember, Advocate Pikkie OTC, sponsors of Brave.
Every thriving business starts the same way with someone who dares to dream.
If that's you, 702 and Standard Bank's MyMobiz business account want to back your next bold move.
Every week we'll spotlight 4 of Gauteng's boldest entrepreneurs and give them a chance to win 25,000 Rand to boost their business.
And if you already bank smart with a Standard Bank business account, that becomes 50,000 Rand.
50,000 Rand.
To enter, hit primemediaplus.com
and tell us your growth aspiration and how a cash injection could unlock your next level of success.
This week, tune in to 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. to hear if your business is in the running. It's time to rise and thrive with Standard Bank's MyMobiz business account.
TCs and more at primemediaplus.com.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
20 minutes after 11 o'clock, you're in 702. We call the segment Family Matters. Feel free to engage with us. Dr. Thabo Shole-Mashao, clinical psychologist, is my guest on this as we discuss financial distress. How does it affect the family life that you're used to? And I fully understand. It's a very difficult topic to deal with. I fully understand how someone may just crumble and cry. And I know it's not a light issue at all. But at times when you feel that you're not the only one going through this, you realize that you can stand and try again for tomorrow. Dr. Thabo, I'm just worried. What do you do, especially as someone who values family life? What do you do when you realize that at home it's only wonderful, the atmosphere is jubilant only when there's money? But when there's no money, when dad or mom is not working, when you are faced with financial distress, what you thought was a thread that kept you together is completely in tatters.
As individuals, I'm of view that people need to do the individual journeys, right? Because when we are, for example, are a couple or we're a family and things are not going accordingly, that you're still an individual person in that unit. Therefore, if you are struggling with something or you realize that something is not what you thought it was, that is where you need maybe an objective sounding board to help you process whatever emotion, whether it's disappointment, whether it's frustration, whether it's anxiety, whatever emotion that you're experiencing because of what you're realizing about what finances mean in the family. That's where you need to journey so that you can be equipped to better, cope with what you are seeing. Because when you see it, it's difficult to unsee it. Therefore, it can create quite a lot of resentment, frustration, or acting out, or just you not being comfortable in a family unit. So it becomes really important to become self-aware and to do the work to process whatever it is that's happening so you can navigate going forward.
I'll want us to touch on gender stereotypes of one person providing over the next, where a man is the head of the family. From your professional expertise viewpoint, I would want you to touch on that in a short while. But first, let's take a voice note on 072 702 1702.
Morning, my brother, Andrew Palane from Brits. Oh, what a topic. I lost my job last year, May. The contract ended. Even now, I haven't returned to work. It's been hard, man. Yeah, it's been hard. I remember there was some months whereby I almost lost the car. I had to borrow money from a family member so that I can pay, so that I don't have to take the car. My wife is the one who's working at the moment. It's hard on her as well, man. It's hard on her taking care of us. I'm talking about my kids, 2 kids, and myself. It's hard, man. But we are surviving, and we have to relocate from Orchard to Brett to a one-room RDP. Yeah, man, it's hard. Financial stress is hard, but I'm glad that my wife is very supportive in this journey. She's trying her best, even if she's not earning much, but she's trying her best. Yeah. So to somebody out there, you are not alone. One day it's one day. One day all will be well. Thank you.
I really wish you the best, and I hope that the storm passes and you can just find yourself on the other side of the rainbow. Really appreciate that voice note on 072 702 1702. Dr. Dumi, reflections on that?
The caller's experience is so rare, where someone loses a job and they actually get support from their spouse. So it's one of those rare, sadly, occasions that we see, occurrences that we see in families. So it's not always easy for the remaining spouse who is still employed or who has a source of income to carry the family, because the reality as well is that the cost of living is so high nowadays. There's just so many stresses that require money. But yeah, so it becomes important, though, as I've mentioned, that when people make a decision to become a couple, to become one, there really needs to be an understanding what, when they say for better or worse, what worse actually is, right? And worse is not equivalent to disrespect. It's worse is when someone passes on, or someone has a chronic illness, or someone loses a job, or someone is in an accident and they lose some functionality. So that is worse. And I think that's where couples really need to become aware of that, because sometimes in the good moments, people struggle to think about the worst that could happen, because it's still honeymoon phase. So we really need to understand that life comes with its realities. It's not always predictable. Anything can happen. You can plan, for example, for a baby and there's no baby, or you can plan for a baby and the baby has some chronic illness, sadly, or the difficulties are always there. And I think that's where you need to make sure that the partnership is solid and authentic and genuine. So that this person that you choose to be with can stand with you really in the hard times, and remind you of how great you are, and of course them also do the work as well.
011-883-0702. Mapula in Mabopane. Good morning, Mapula.
Good morning, Thabo. What I want to comment about is that times are there anyway, and couples need to learn to say, when you have a relationship with your children, and never to look at it as a transactional relationship where you are known to be the one that is just providing expensive gadgets, then you are able to sit your children down and your family down to saying, listen, now we are in a very tough period. Things are not as the same as it was before. We are at the point where we're like in a season where it's now. Then you'd realize that children would understand. But it's just that sometimes parents honestly put their relationship in a very difficult position with their kids, where children are known, the father or the mother, to be just this provider of food, expensive gadgets, and never to instill the values of respect, health. Wealth is not only monetary, or should not be defined with monetary value, but wealth should be defined with, I've got healthy, I've got sound mind, I've got peace, and I've got a roof under my head. That then children learn to be grateful and never equate wealth with material things.
I want Yeah, so apologies, Mapule. 1 second. I wanted to, before I put it to Dr. Dumema, and we'll do so after the news headlines shortly, but I wanted to ask you one quick question. Isn't it easier said than done, especially when children live through social media and other various forms of conventional media, and outside of your home, they see what the definition of a good life is, rightly or wrongly, and they misconstrue that to be material things, iPads, iPhones, PS5, this, that, and the other. And also you as a parent on one end, because you feel guilty, you have accepted quietly that definition of what wealth is.
Yeah, Thabo, you know what? For me, it's not necessarily easier said than done. It is about how you bring up your children from the word go. When you bring children in such a way that you value people and you value relationships, your interaction, it's not transactional. You instill this value from the word go, from the way the children are brought up. Then it becomes easier. Far easier than anything else. It's just that nowadays sometimes some parents live in this life of, I wish when I get rich, I'm going to be like that. And they themselves are the ones that have defined how relationships or how they are valued by being materialistic.
Yeah.
So once you yourself as a parent start to behave that way, then that is when you're going to put yourself in a very difficult position.
Mapula and Mabopane, exactly 11:30. And we'll go back to this very interesting topic of family and finances. But first, Mbali Dlamini will give us the very latest on Eyewitness News headlines. Welcome, Mbali. Good morning.
Thanks, Thabo. A very good morning. 2 people have died in Diepkloof, Soweto following a service delivery protest this morning. Some residents from the local hostel blocked roads during peak traffic today, leaving motorists stranded. The protest is related to accommodation issues, with residents accusing the city of Johannesburg of ignoring their requests to develop vacant land for housing. The trial into the burglary at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phalaphala game farm has been postponed due to one of the accused being heavily pregnant. Lawyers for Froliana Joseph, a former cleaner at the farm, were granted a 3-month postponement. Froliana, along with 2 others, are accused of breaking into the president's farm and making off with $580,000 in US dollars. And Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says his top priority during government's visit to the United States this week will be growing the economy and expanding employment opportunities. Steenhuisen forms part of President Cyril Ramaphosa's delegation to America, where the president hopes to outline South Africa's trade agenda as well as repair a rocky relationship. Those are the headlines, this EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you.
Thanks, Mr. T. Well, at this stage, if you're leaving the Joburg CBD, expect some delays. M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Also, if you're leaving the Niger heading towards Vereeniging, traffic is a bit sluggish on the N1 southbound. That's between the N12 and the R554. There's also slow-moving traffic if you're heading towards Midrand and approaching the intersection of Old Pretoria Road and Allendale Road due to faulty traffic lights. Traffic lights also not working. Rand Park Ridge, Bayers Nodia and the N1, as well as in Alexandra at Marlborough Drive and Far East Bank. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Do you want to buy a Honda? Cars.co.za. Toyota or Mahindra? Cars.co.za. Do you want to sell a Cherry? Cars.co.za. Suzuki or Mercedes? Cars.co.za. Polo, Kia, Mitsubishi, Havel, Hyundai, Lamborghini. Buy and sell, it's very easy. All you got to do is type cars.co.za, cars.co.za, cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za, cars.co.za.
There's more than one side to who you are. You are not just a number or your job title or the role society assigns you. You have dreams, passions, and untold motivations that shape your journey. Your full stories have been untold. APSA sees these stories and believes that the real opportunities lie within you. Join APSA as they unfold your untold stories. APSA, we see your story because your story matters. APSA is a registered FSP and registered credit provider.
We think it's time you pose with your Mahindra and take a snap for Insta. Or go jowl with your crew in your new Isuzu. Why not complete your makeover with a brand new Land Rover? Or see what you've been missing not driving a Nissan. Whichever car starts your party, you're bound to find it at Bidvest McCarthy. We have all these brands and so much more. You're guaranteed to find what you're looking for. Bidvest McCarthy. Our people deliver. Always.
What does extraordinary mean to you?
Is it enabling world-class healthcare through telemedicine?
Or empowering the delivery of water and electricity through smart meters?
AI, cloud, enterprise apps, IoT and security. One seamless ecosystem. Together, let's build the extraordinary that sustains today and protects tomorrow. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Further together, Vodacom Business.
Some walks are just for exercise, others for leisure. But this walk is for something greater.
It's team building.
This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. You'll walk through history. You'll walk with it. On Sunday, 27 July, the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns. It's a route that winds through the heart and soul of our capital city. From the sacred grounds of Freedom Park to the powerful steps of the Union Buildings. Choose the 8 kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4 kilometer for families and first-timers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 Rand for children under 12. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, is where footsteps become footprints.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
25 minutes to 12 o'clock, and we continue our discussion with Dr. Tumi Mashego on family matters, the impact of financial stress on the family. How does it affect everyone? Does everyone become jolly and happy when there's no money as much as they do when they go on holidays and have everything worked out for them financially? 011-883-0702. Before we take Tandani, please hang tight, Tandani. I would like Dr. Tumi Mashego to respond to our previous call, Mapula. And Mapula was talking about teaching your children, because these finances or lack of will affect the children as well. How do you really conscientize the children about not being too materialistic and being understanding in this issue? Dr. Mashego.
It's definitely true what the caller said, because what you set as the foundation for finances in terms of how you interact with your children will determine their relationship with money in the future, in spite of what happens in society. So in spite of, the materialistic values that we see nowadays. And what I would also like to add is that, unfortunately, our people or our parents define their self or their self-worth according to the state of their finances, right? Meaning they sometimes are functioning from a place of lack, or the parents are sort of wounded by what they experienced in childhood, meaning maybe they were raised in poverty, and this obviously impacts how they relate and manage money, and this often leads to what we call a mindset of scarcity, right? Where you and it can manifest itself in different ways, where someone overspends, or this debt, or focuses on immediate needs, and this hinders how they plan and saving and investing their money, because they still have that internalized scarcity mindset. So parents also need to be aware of how they were impacted by their own childhood, maybe, or where they come from, or by their own experiences with money, because that will manifest in adulthood. It doesn't just vanish. So yes, so if you're coming from that scarcity mindset, once you get money, you want to spend it immediately because you feel like you don't know how long it will last in your bank account. And you spend it on things you don't necessarily need. And the focus is always on the immediate things. And maybe you're also functioning from a place of lack because what people portray out there in society, that they have money and they maybe, air quote, living their best life, drinking, popping champagne. Once you get money, that's the thing you're going to go to. If you're still, harboring that wound that other people could buy this and I couldn't. Now when I get 10 rand, instead of investing and doing, using it properly, I'm going to buy that thing which I wanted when I was, when I couldn't. So we also need to understand that it can create a lot of wounds that one needs to sit with and process and heal from. Because it will definitely not just vanish. And I know people always say, my goodness, everything impacts us as human beings from a psychologist's point of view. And I agree. Yes, everything impacts us. And just because you're not dealing with it does not mean you will not project it. Just because you repress it, ignore it, avoid it, does not mean you will not project that. So it's also the same when it comes to finances.
011-883-0702. Tandanani is calling us from Boksburg. Morning, Tandanani. Welcome.
Good morning, Thabo, the doctor, and the listeners of 702.
Morning, sir. Good morning. The floor is yours, Tandanani.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you for this great topic. I'm also unemployed, and my wife is the sole breadwinner in our household. I was sharing in the voice note that, when I grew up, my parents also went through a similar situation, and so I observed how my parents dealt with it. And I obviously love my father, and I'm not disrespecting him. However, there were some elements of rebellion. Sometimes when you go through some situation, you take out your stress or your feelings, towards the people that are not the cause of it. And so I would often wonder and say to myself, if only he would get along with my mother, things wouldn't be as bad. And so lo and behold, now I'm also going through a similar experience, and so I vowed then that I will try, and I'm not trying to make myself to be a saint. There are problems, absolutely. There are times when you also get frustrated. However, I vow that why exacerbate a situation? Already things are bad, so try and mitigate it by being a positive factor. It doesn't matter how dire the situation is. And and I often speak to many men, and I will listen to them telling me their problems in their relationships. I'm talking about men who have good income, and I will share with them, and I'll tell them that you are right now, you are struggling to cope with success because you are successful, in so many ways, especially if you are a breadwinner and you are able to bring an income. So other problems should be trivial. You know what I'm saying, and I will, and so I would often try to share this experience to other people that listen. You gotta recognize that you have it good, especially when you have an income. However, when you don't, it will come to pass as well. It's not a permanent position.
Certainly.
However, you need to hang in there, and you need
Tandanani, really appreciate it. Your insights are invaluable to us. They give us a perspective that is very necessary. And as you would imagine, this is not just a topic. This is a reality to, I would assume, a majority of South Africans, given the rate of unemployment, given the stats on poverty and the breadline, and various other surveys that have been taken to determine the income, household incomes by Stats SA, it is so, you have so many families that are battling from day to day. So, Dr. Mashao, I wanted to find out from you, to what extent does it emasculate a partner? And I am not in any way trying to suggest that it's only men who look after families. As we have heard on this show, we've had callers who are saying that the women are standing up, they're looking after the family, and we'll touch on that shortly. But to what extent, as far as gender stereotypical roles are concerned, does this bring about an element of emasculation and perhaps acting itself out in unsavory and unfavorable ways onto the family, as we've seen in the news?
Definitely, that's the sad reality, is that, finance do become a problem, but also that if your worth or your value, you have sort of your self-worth is wrapped around your state of your finances, that you feel like this is who you are because you're a provider, then it can create quite a lot of problems. And that is where you get people who then can struggle with coping strategies because now they are unable to provide anymore, which was their identity. And also maybe this is what the dynamic was in the relationship, that one was a provider and, the other party also, came into the relationship because the one is a provider. And therefore, if, the identity is wrapped around those, whether one provides and one doesn't, then it can create quite a lot of conflict, and where people actually start acting out aggressively, with anger, or, self-medication with substances. Sometimes it's over-the-counter medication. It's not just, your alcohol. It can be also medication. People are drinking headache tablets, sleeping tablets, and food as well, where food is used as that. Or the insecurities can also lead to one finding joy outside of the family unit. Right, so creating quite a lot of conflict within the family unit because this person is just acting out and not being present in the home in spite of what's happening there and being supportive there. So it can be quite
apologies for that.
Emotionally. Yeah, and I was just saying, so there can be quite a lot of unprocessed emotions there. And again, it goes back to the individuals in that family unit to go and sit with self and understand what's actually bothering you. Yes, we can see that the stressor is the lack of finances, but what's going on down below the surface, because it's not the same for everyone.
I don't want to be controversial, especially on a sensitive issue such as this one. There are other people, though, who say that I struggled enough. I don't want to be struggling in my marriage. I don't want a poor partner. And often it would be a lady talking about a husband, not always. And someone would be saying that I struggled enough and we need to somehow, I suppose, by overcompensating, realize that I want people to notice that we are doing well, because previously we didn't do so well. And if a partner is somehow lacking, I'll go out and look for another partner, because it's not just about love. Love doesn't pay the bills. Love doesn't put petrol or diesel in the car. Love doesn't take the kids to school, at least to an expensive school. Love doesn't put food on the table. If it doesn't have it, he must just go.
Yeah, there are people like that. And my question always is to couples who are now, having a fight because of the finances. Did they actually have a discussion before the relationship became serious about what the other must expect from them? Like, did they actually sit down and say, my guy, my girl, if you lose your job, I'm out. I'm not going to sit with someone who is not working.
Yeah.
So the
without interrupting, Dr. Dumi, I want you to address this before we go to the break quickly. And apologies just to jump in. But we do know that in the real world, people are not like that. People genuinely are disingenuous. You and I would be dating today and sit down. I would pretend to be this fantastic guy, and I'd give you my set of values that would attract you closer, that would magnetize you closer to me. You'd give me your set of principles as well. But when the tire hits the tar, I see a different to me altogether.
And I think that's the crisis then we have as society, that we are not authentic about the values and beliefs that we have, right? So if, for example, I want someone who is always earning a certain amount or, above my pay grade or whatever, then we need to be honest about it. So we need to be really authentic and own your truth, to say, this is my truth and this is who I am. And if someone still takes a chance with you, then the onus is on them to realize what they're getting themselves into, because this person was clear from the onset about the expectations. And I think sometimes we always think that we can change this person, or, they will, soften their heart or be different. But people don't change. And I always say to my clients that people do not change. Adults don't change. They have shown you who they are. Accept them for who they are, and make sure you take ownership of, yourself in that relationship, and understand who you are in that dynamic, and take charge of you.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's so true. People don't change. 11 to 12.
Ready to boost your IT career? Get globally recognized with an ISACA certification from Talk IT, Africa's exclusive ISACA elite training partner. Whether it's CISA, CISM, C-RISC or C-GUIDE, our courses validate your skills and prove you've got what it takes to build digital trust in today's enterprise world. Open doors to new opportunities with certifications that employers value. Start your journey today. Visit talkit.com. That's TORQUE-IT.com.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
Whether you own a startup in Sandton or a spaza shop in Soweto, Standard Bank has the solutions to grow your business. For just R9 per month, our MyMoBiz business account gives you access to free online banking and a team of business experts. Our Simply Blue Pro card machine enables you to accept payments anytime, anywhere. Search Standard Bank MyMoBiz and Simply Blue to amplify the growth of your business today. Standard Bank is an authorized FSB and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
You're on 702, and this is Thabo in for Clement. We're together till 12, meaning in the next few minutes. If you have any issue to ponder with us, feel free to do so on 0727021702. I've been neglecting some of your voice notes and your text messages. Let's start first with a text message, and I'll allow Dr. Mashego to jump in and give us her expertise views on this one. The fact of the matter, this is the text message, by the way. The fact of the matter is people marry or date for convenience. Love comes second if it eventually happens. Relationship tends to change as financial situation changes. Worse if men are downgraded. And this comes from Anonymous. Dr. Dumi.
Sadly, that is, the reality that people go into relationships, and the reasons they're in the relationship are not sustainable. If that's, they're not things where they take into consideration that life will happen. There will be change. Something will happen. Maybe the person, for example, and it's not just the finances. They might gain weight. They might, something might happen to them physically, or they might lose the weight. Sometimes that's a problem. Or, you know what I mean? Anything can happen at any point in time. And I think the two people going into the relationship need to really be honest to themselves about who they're in a relationship with, because I'm of view that deep down at the core, we can see some of the echoed red flags in the other person. Now, the question is, when you go into it, is it something that you can tolerate as a person? Because at the end of the day, you're the only thing that you can control. You're the only person that you can control in that relationship. So when you go into the relationship, please make sure you do your homework to make sure that the person you are in relationship with, no matter what they're selling to you, that you make sure that what they're selling is something that you want to live with for the, if it's a marriage, for the rest of your life. because I think sometimes we can see those things. We
Yeah.
are aware.
Yeah.
It's just, I think love takes over, pressure to get married, maybe there's a child, there's many other things. But please make sure that you do the work within to be empowered for whatever happens in that relationship or without the relationship.
There's something to be said about ladies who become breadwinners, and I have no idea why we exceptionalize them, if it's because of societal expectations that they would be on the other side happy to just to receive. But there's something to be said about them. And also withstanding, I assume, pressures from their families to say, how do you support an old man? And why don't you find someone else? You're still beautiful. You're still amazing. There's someone out there who'd want to take care of you. That guy is useless. But there are many ladies who are there and who have their work cut out for them as far as providing for their families under difficult situations. They are doing it and breaking the norm.
Definitely. And I think we really need to change the narrative that a certain specific gender should, do certain things. And it's not to say that people should, take advantage of the others, because I think that's where the problem comes in, is that, for example, if a female needs to take over the situation because somebody lost their job, that the other person now must still, not disrespect or be aggressive or project their own insecurities about being unemployed onto their partner, because I think that's where now the dynamic becomes a bit dysfunctional, in that the person who is unemployed or who has lost their income then tend to project their insecurities, their frustration onto the very person who's standing with them. And I think that is where we also need to be wary that if something does happen, if you are, you lose a job or you're not employed, that for the person to be self-aware of how they show up in that relationship, even if they're unemployed, but also the person who, has the income or is the breadwinner of the dynamic, they must also take care of themselves, right? Meaning they should be aware also how they are dealing with their frustration, which is understandable because it's not always easy and affordable in the state we're living in. But how do they then project their frustration? Are they irritable
Yes.
with, the unemployed partner? Are they irritable with people who are just eating 3 slices of bread now instead of 2? You know what I mean? So they, so I think it's just that self-awareness. It goes back to just self-awareness to the people who are breadwinners because of the scenario, and also those who have lost their income. So that we really just need to promote self-awareness.
There's so much more, Dr. Dumi, to this. We didn't even touch on adult children who live with their parents, and their parents are not working, and they're off working age, and their kids are literally holding up their family life with their own pockets, and that dynamic also exists. But how do we get hold of you as we say goodbye? We only have 20 seconds left. There are many listeners who are asking, how can we get in touch with Dr. Dumi Mashao?
So I'm at rebaonewellness.com, but I'm also on WhatsApp at 082-858-7033. That's 082-858-7033. And on the socials at Dr. Dumi_DSM. They can also find me, as I said, on Rebaone Wellness, where all my details are also there.
I loved talking to you. I hope that we'll have an opportunity again to touch on other matters. Dr. Dumi Mashao, clinical psychologist, 3 minutes to 12.
Psst. Hey, no longer feeling like the man you used to be?
The man who's the life of the party, even when he doesn't attend.
The fact is, 95% of men with low testosterone go untreated.
Vitamin High Performance Supplements for Men helps recharge energy, regain lean muscle, and reload performance. Available at all good pharmacies and vitamin.co.za.
Vitamin. Don't get older. Get better.
Timber, have you filed your business tax return?
Joe. With My Way Business Insurance, I get My Business Assist, which gives me loads of benefits. They assist in filing my taxes, so no long queues. Plus, I get tender notifications, marketing services, and more to help me elevate my hustle.
They do what?
Yeah, bo. Thanks to My Way, now I have time to focus on the real deal, which is growing my business.
Move to My Way Business Insurance today and get covered to do business your way. Visit myway.co.za for a quote. My Business Assist is a value-added product. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age. Or now also in a no-water-needed, fruity-flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemmings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
Coming up
On the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
And she's sitting right here in front of me between 12 and 1. Mandy Wiener, Midday Report. Hey, Mandy, good weekend?
Very good weekend. Good to be back. I've been off for a little while. So very, very happy to be back.
Welcome back, because I'm never here, so I don't know these things.
The listeners will tell you.
But tell me, Mandy, what's coming up on the show?
We'll take a look at the Diepkloof hostel protest. 2 people have died. We'll speak to our reporter there. President Ramaphosa is en route to Washington. The Agriculture Minister, John Steenhuisen, has also been speaking about what his plans are for this trip. Is he walking into a trap? What exactly is going to be happening? I've heard you talking about that as well. The EFF is holding a victory against VAT march. The Senzo Miwa trials finally resuming. And then as 702, obviously we are mourning the loss of our Prime Media founder, Izzy Kirsch. I'll be speaking to the legend Stan Katz.
Oh, wow.
A bit later on in the show.
We'll be tuned in. As Bongane had said, he didn't start a radio station, but a movement. All that and more between 12 and 1 on 702. It's been great spending time with you, and join us again. It's exactly 12 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Lamini. 2 people have died in Diepkloof, Soweto following a service delivery protest this morning. Some residents from the local hostel blocked roads during peak hour traffic. The protesters related to accommodation issues, with residents accusing the city of Johannesburg of ignoring their request to develop vacant land for housing. It's unclear how the 2 people died as yet. Mungezi Koko is in Soweto.
The protest started in the early hours of this morning when the busy Diepkloof interchange was blocked with burning tyres and debris. Things took a turn for the worst when 2 trucks were attacked and 1 was looted. I'm currently standing amid broken glass, oil spills and the overwhelming stench of pilchards and fish from the ransacked delivery truck. A crumpled letter lies in a pool of blood not far from the body of a man still covered with body foil. Nearby, furious residents look on, their eyes filled with rage, some hurling insults, others in tears. Gauteng Police spokesperson Mavela Masondo says the situation remains volatile.
2 people who are confirmed deceased, and we've got 1 person who is in hospital.
Masondo adds officers will remain here for now. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News, Diepkloof.
Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen says his top priority during government's visit to the United States this week will be growing the economy and expanding employment opportunities. Steenhuisen forms part of President Cyril Ramaphosa's delegation to America, where the president hopes to outline South Africa's trade agenda as well as repair a rocky relationship. Tensions between the 2 countries have been fueled by misinformation about the country's laws and the expulsion of South Africa's ambassador to the US. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
President Cyril Ramaphosa set off from Waterkloof Air Force Base last night on what's said to be one of his toughest diplomatic tasks since the formation of the Government of National Unity. DA spokesperson Willie Oakham says the delegation, which will include its leader John Steenhuisen, is expected to further the aspirations of all South Africans.
This delegation to Washington, D.C. represents all South Africans who have entrusted us to put the shared national interest and desire for economic growth and job creation first, ahead of any party or ideological positions.
Wearing his ministerial hat, Oakham says Steenhuisen's focus will be on maintaining preferential trade access to US markets.
Losing these benefits would be disastrous for farmers, farm workers, and the economy at large.
Last week, US President Donald Trump said he won't be joining the G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg in November because he continues to believe bad things are happening in the country. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
In the courts now, the trial into the burglary at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phalaphala game farm has been postponed due to one of the accused being heavily pregnant. Lawyers for Froliana Joseph, a former cleaner at the farm, were granted a 3-month postponement. Froliana, along with 2 others, are accused of breaking into the president's farm and making off with $580,000 in US dollars. The incident allegedly took place on the 9th of February in 2020. Thabiso Goba reports.
Today was supposed to be the first day of the highly anticipated trial, with the state having lined up 6 witnesses. Froliana Joseph arrived in court wearing a face mask, baggy grey sweatpants, with her stomach protruding from a black hoodie. Her lawyer, Releng Masipa, told the court Froliana was not in a condition to stand trial.
Accused 2 is not in a position to proceed the matter due to a medical condition which we have annexed to the letter addressed to the state that there is a medical condition that she is not in a position to proceed. And as a result, we're going to be asking your chief that we adjourn the matter to a time that she will be in a good space and a good medical condition to proceed with the matter.
The trial has been postponed to the 15th of September. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, Limpopo.
A collective of 45 ratepayers associations are calling on the city of Cape Town to create additional revenue to mitigate proposed municipal tariff increases. The proposed tariff structure, which is set to be implemented on the 1st of July, could see ratepayers forking out up to 40% more for municipal bills. Homeowners face paying fixed charges for water, sanitation and a new citywide cleaning tariff, all based on property value. Carlo Peterson has more.
The Cape Town Collective Ratepayers Association has garnered more than 10,000 signatures from homeowners across the metro to petition against the city's proposed rates increases. CTCRA spokesperson Bas Zeitberg says the collection is calling on the city to offer ratepayers more relief.
Besides budget cuts, we also need to look at additional revenues, such as a tourist tax, that can make sure that the burden on homeowners is lightened.
Zeitberg says the collective believes rates charges should not be based on property value.
Secondly, to return to the fixed charges as they were in previous years without the link to property values, since the Municipal Systems Act requires charges to be fair and in proportion to the usage of a service.
The city says measures to reduce the tariff increases will be considered at a council meeting on the 29th of May. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And in Tanzania, opposition leader Tundu Lissu has appeared in court for his latest hearing in a treason trial in which he faces a potential